9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're live. Hey,
What's
you're
up,
on
crew?
the show with Stop the FOMO, myself, FOMO, and Brian's of Brian's Tech Therapy. We're here to wrap up CES.
Are we here?
We're on. Let's check
All right.
audio real quick.
All right. I see Chris. What's up, Chris? That's the only comment I see. But I do see 50
All
people
right.
in there.
All the comments are populating. So we have this as our first topic, but let me populate the topics. And then Brian has so much to say today. Oh my goodness. And we're going to try to get everything. We will get to everything actually. And if your topic is not here, don't worry about it. Ask, I'm sure we will get to it. But we will start off with Brian. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. So I want to do our little introduction today. I'm
Yes, do
Brian
it.
from Brian's Tech Therapy. I'm here at my boy Stop the FOMO. We just got back
Woo-hoo.
from CES 2025. Actually, we left early because we got there early. But some of the talk has been about this being a lackluster CES, and I really couldn't disagree more. And I really want this live stream to talk about why. And we had our best CES as a duo, individually, as creators, as friends. And we actually missed you guys, though we did a pretty funny live stream. If you missed that one, go back and circle to it. But
It's a
FOMO,
funny one.
it was one of those trips where it felt like we were there for a long time until we were about to go home. Then you didn't want to go home,
Right.
And then I'm glad to be home. So I want to know how you feel coming home. What was your thoughts on the CES as a whole before we go into your topics individually?
Oh man, the whole CES experience was awesome. I really enjoyed the back to back to back. I mean, if you guys don't know, we pack our schedule. So in the morning we wake up early, we're working out. My favorite day was when we had 2 buffets in a row. We hit the Wynn buffet for brunch. It was so good. And Brian's like, let's come back for dinner. We come back for dinner and we roll out like, 2 buffets back to back. We got to fast for the next 24 hours. So we fast for
Yeah.
24 hours and then we hit it with this giant steak and then we look at each other. I think we're going to fast again. I mean, it was just so fun. Eating, running, eating, running, and all the Uber and Lyft guys were awesome. They got us there on time. I saw
Yeah.
some amazing technologies I didn't expect to see for sure. It's the surprises. What I love about CES is the surprises because when you have all these leaks and then all you get are the TVs that are just consistent with the leaks, you're like, wait a minute, didn't I see this on a leak last week? But to be surprised by Hisense, Samsung, TCL surprised me. I mean, we'll talk about every brand. Panasonic actually surprised me as well. So it definitely did not disappoint. So yeah, how about you, Brian? What are your thoughts?
So if you missed my video, there was definitely some heartbreak involved. Um, as something that appeared to be there wasn't there. And that's something, FOMO, I want to talk about with leaks. Because leaks, even if half true, can be 100% wrong. And in this case, that leak of the 83-inch QD OLED that I literally pre-ordered
Oh,
from...
wait. You guys have to
I know we're
watch the
going to
live
talk about
stream.
it.
We have to watch. You have to watch the live stream where
I'm
Brian
like
goes
jump roping over
from excitement, denial, and he gets very violent, and then acceptance, and then he's in tears, and I have to carry him back to the room. He's still crying
here.
on my shoulder. I
Oh
can't
my God.
believe it. And that
So
last half
we'll get
of
to
the
that
live
story
stream
after.
was just the acceptance and the surrender.
So we'll get to that story after when we hit the topic. But for me, FOMO, what it was about was, and I know from the outside, for many of you, it looked like it was, again, lackluster. There wasn't a lot of options. But what we are able to see from the inside at these kind of private meetings, getting there early, is we do talk to those that build the TVs, not just the marketing teams. We get a real feel for what their direction and vision is. And every manufacturer, FOMO, even the ones that we thought were similar, all went in different directions. Every one of them kind of, and that's the story, is they have what they want to do. And a few years ago, FOMO, you and I thought it was going to be OLED nation from here on out. Actually, OLED has kind of fallen a bit to the wayside. Mini LEDs, RGB mini LEDs, RGB micro LEDs, watching them jockey for position is the real story. And it was, for me, the best CES because everyone just went their own way. So I thought that was amazing. And you have to really kind of know what they're thinking, the manufacturers, to really know that. Like, let's real quick, FOMO, like Hisense is a good example. When you
Mm-hmm.
look at Hisense's booth, you will say to yourself, wow, they have, what's up, Max Chablis? I give him that French N
Max
to his name.
Chambly.
What's up, Max? Um, if you're walking by the booth from Hisense, you think, okay, they only have these two TVs and both of them are vaporware. Then you realize, no, they're having a separate event to showcase the 6, the
Mm-hmm.
7, and the 8. So they're not leaving that out. They actually showed what they are really going to ship and feature, which really showed us, these TVs are real, both a micro LED and an RGB mini LED. They're
So,
not, so a lot,
Brian, what
yeah,
you just said, I just wanted to stop right there because people need to appreciate this. A lot of people complain, where's the QM8? Where's the QM7, U7K, or U7,
yeah,
U8, U9? And then we have to stop and say, wait, if CES is supposed to be exciting, the latest and the newest, do you want just incremental improvements? Okay, yeah, it has a couple more dimming zones. And of course, if we show it on our stream or on a video, it literally looks the same like every other TV. You're not going to see those subtle improvements.
shoot
I
the same
like
demo.
right. I like that they only bring out what is a jump in either, experimental, trying something new they've never done before, RGB mini LED, RGB micro LED, just something new that we've never seen. That's what should be at CES. And then the other stuff, QM6, well, QM6K, that we haven't seen. We'll talk about why we haven't seen it. But there's just so many stuff that I want to be focused on the jumps in technology, because if you roll out, oh, this is the incremental improvement, then it would be a doubter. So go ahead.
Well, and for us too, FOMO, as him and I grow in this industry, like for instance, last year for me especially, I was shooting everything I could shoot. I was shooting B-roll that was supposed to last me until like the end of the year, and my videos were super long because I was trying to get everything in. It's easier for me, for like say the Hisense video that's on its way, is to say, look, these are the two they're focusing on, but don't worry, I'll be there in the spring. I know I'm going in the spring to shoot the 7, 6, and 8, and maybe the 9. So you're going to have more footage. Something like Sony, they're not there. We know there will be some kind of separate event that we will attend and be able to bring it all to you. I know it's a disappointment for you guys not to get them all in one shot, but for us, it actually, you see why they're copying Sony a little bit, FOMO, to say, look, let's incrementally put out our stuff where we would see LG and Samsung years ago bring all their stuff out in the beginning, and then it kind of cancels each other out. Even Samsung was hush hush on the part numbers. They did that last year. LG didn't say a damn thing. Didn't say anything. So it's great to see the different ways that they are approaching it. FOMO. What did you think about that difference from last year?
For which one?
Just the way that they were a little bit more tight-lipped. LG was more tight-lipped.
I,
Samsung was more tight-lipped.
I'll tell you why they're tight-lipped. And this is very interesting. You notice, and I had a long talk with, shout out to our new friend, Rasmus. Rasmus from Flat
Rasmus?
Panels HD. We reference his articles all the time. As you know, I love his website, and I've been reading his website for years now, but I've never met him in person. And so I see, as he runs up to me, he's like, and this is at Samsung Display. He's like, I know you.
Yeah.
You don't know me. I'm like, but I want to know you. Who are you? I'm Rasmus, Flat Panels HD. I'm like, oh, and we became
That
fast
was the
friends.
witness protection moment. Because
And
then when I came over, he was like, ooh.
ooh. And so we talked about that, right? He specifically mentioned, and so this is what our conclusion is. Remember when Samsung and LG were all about the specs? 1,000 nits, 1,000 dimming zones, right? They couldn't wait to tell us how many dimming zones. But why? They were so far ahead of Sony, Hisense, and TCL. The specs drove their story. But
Yeah.
what is it now? The specs, they've fallen behind, right? So let's talk about Samsung. Very tight-lipped about RGB MicroLED and everything else other than anti-glare, which it is what it is. But they don't want to talk about brightness anymore. They don't want to talk about dimming zones because for 2 years now, TCL and Hisense have exceeded their dimming zones for half the price. remember when Sony says all about the software? Well, they started saying that when they got rid of the dimming zone record after Z9D, right? So now they're
Yeah.
all about the software. Samsung is all about the AI and connected house. LG is exactly the same because their OLED measurements don't really beat QD-OLED. So they don't want to talk about it. They're very
Well,
close
in
to the
FOMO,
vest. That's the reason.
we saw with Sony at the sneak peek last year that 4,000 nits was the message that was put out, and then there was a backup to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then it was never really promised. It was kind of talked about the resolution and the gradients of 4,000 nit content. But once those things are leaked and then maybe disproven, the TV gets cut at the knees, and then they're stuck having to adhere to that. So all these companies, marketing and engineering, they're all not really friends all the time. So we see, especially last year at Samsung FOMO, they always say in the beginning, so we go to a couple events. We go to First Look, which is a group of media. Then we go to Samsung Innovations, which is our good friend Florian, who we're definitely going to talk about, and Mindu and the rest of that crew. And then we have Samsung Display. There's something to learn from all three. Maybe you don't capture a lot of footage there, FOMO, but last year they said, ask the guys in the white anything and they'll answer your questions. So FOMO was filming, I think you were filming the AK 900, which is the second tier this year. And somebody goes, is that the 4K? And FOMO goes, I don't know. He's like, I don't know which one it is. And they don't know which one it is. So I only knew because
they didn't label it. They don't, I mean, you have to look very closely. Oh, right? Because they don't care anymore. At this point, it's all about the anti-glare. And we're going to talk about that as well. Why is there so much anti-glare? I have a theory and I think it's right. You guys can agree or disagree. But yeah, go ahead.
So, but it was, again, we're at a disadvantage in one way. And FOMO and I actually nitpick this a little bit. You can read the press specs all you want. Anybody can do that. You guys can do that. So even having the specs FOMO is nothing but reading off a piece of paper. It's the story of where they're headed that's more impactful, right? So for TCL, it is vertical integration. What does that mean? That means they can change on a dime. Hisense has a 116 display this year. That means literally TCL next year can pivot and go 117. They can move that quickly. That's their story. Hisense's story is this TV, which looks like it's out of reach both financially and possibly is definitely coming, both the micro LED and the RGB LED. Now I know you guys are Getty. What's up, Getty? You guys are already asking about the U7, U8, U9, and U6. There will be a spring event, guys. That'll be next month, maybe the end of the month, where we will be invited to film those. They haven't forgotten them. They want to feature them separately. So I know you guys feel like maybe they're leaving that crew out and maybe leaving the more value section out. Absolutely not. They want to feature it separately. That was a message they really wanted us to hit home, FOMO, was that's a separate thing for them versus throwing them all together. And FOMO, last year, the U7 and U6 and U8 were back behind closed doors anyway. Only a few of us actually saw it.
Yep.
Damn, I'm not even stuttering tonight.
So moving forward in this stream, since we haven't seen the U6, U7, U8, U9 from Hisense for 2025, we're going to leave that out until we actually see it because we don't even have speculated specs. Same with TCL, although the QM6K was brought out, so we'll talk about that. The QM7 was just kind of there, but they didn't want to focus on that, so we'll leave the QM7, QM8, QM9, even X11K. We'll talk about it generally near the end, and what I want to do is hit the technology questions right now because a lot of people are asking about the LG 4-layer cake. I'm calling it 4LC, and you're asking me. That's Brian's trademark. Why is there? Why are people calling it a 4-stack? So first of all, this 4-stack, it's what writers were calling it because they were not told what it was. So like, okay, so you went from 3-stack to 4-stack. We asked LG. He's like, it's just we got rid of MLA. And they wouldn't even tell us that there's 4. Like, we got rid of MLA, it's brighter, it's, Brightness Booster Plus, Brightness Booster Ultra? They did not want to get into the actual technology for layer cake, for stack, dual tandem quad, doesn't matter. They don't want to talk or give it a buzzword other than it's Brightness Booster Ultra Plus, something like that. Okay, so that aside, I'm calling it 4LC, taking what Brian calls it, 4-layer cake. We'll have fun with it, but yeah, it's a 4-stack. And
It's
so
lemon meringue pie, baby.
what they've done is kind of separated the colors in a way. Ultimately, it does two things. It's slightly brighter than MLA, but definitely less expensive than MLA. So we know it's brighter, we know it's less expensive, and it appears that color saturation is better at more brightness levels. So as you get closer to black, it doesn't lose or shift color, supposedly. And as you get higher up the spectrum, you don't lose color. So it's a wider range of color saturation than what you had with the old 3-stack and MLA. However, and this is a big however, MLA brought a couple of things to the table. One, color purity was better off angle. You had less of a noticeable magenta tint. So without MLA, is there that magenta tint, right? Is there that color shifting that you may see off angle? We don't know. And only certain scenes, not a lot of scenes. So MLA did bring some qualitative improvements. We'll have to see about that. But I did see on Panasonic, they had last year's Panasonic next to this Z95B, which uses the 4-layer cake WOLED, and we'll talk about that separately, but I just wanted to address 4-layer cake. And I did see a slight improvement. The key is, and this is the big one, right? And I want to address this against the Samsung S95F. So the Samsung S95D to S95F improvement, to me, and I think this is a great time to bring this in too, right? So I'll take the RGB MicroLED off for now. Okay, how LG...
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Before we get too deep, real quick, before we get too deep, we have 350 in the chat. I want to just say from him and I, thank you so much. We think about you guys when we're at these events. Me personally, my channel just hit 40,000 subscribers. I'm actually the OG of this whole TV group for the most part. I've been here the longest. But you guys make this easy. Making these videos for you guys turning out on a Sunday night, 350 of you in the chat. We talk, when FOMO and I are together in these events, we don't just talk TVs on camera. We talk TVs in the gym. We talk them at dinner. And if you're a manufacturer that brings us to a dinner to talk, it's not going to be about my kids. I love them, but I'm not trying to show you pictures of them. All we talk about is this.
Yeah.
So you guys being here is really what's most important to us. We don't always give the love back that you give us, but you make this easy. There was a lot of miserable people at this CES. A lot of people were just like, oh, this sucks. This is boring. Me and this dude were walking around skipping rope, just running around, amps to go from one thing to another. Now, in fairness, FOMO and I weren't on the main floor very much. We were very focused on what meetings we had. But we had a blast. We had a blast at the mixer later on where we met everybody else. We saw everybody else. But I want to say thank you from us that you guys make this easy. Please hit like. This is a joy to be able to hang out with you guys. And again, thank you for subscribing to my channel and for being here for us both. FOMO, take it away. Absolutely.
But let me hit some super chats. I know we're going to talk about how the G5, the S95F, compared to themselves or their predecessors. But before we get there, Christian, thank you for the super chat. I was so dead set. I was getting an S95F this year, right? That's the latest 4th generation QD-OLED. But after CES, it looks like I'm probably going to get a G5 instead. And I'm a Samsung guy.
Why, Chris?
I bet you it's the anti-glare. I'm guessing it's the anti-glare, right, Chris? But so let me address this question first. I was a little disappointed that the anti-glare continued. However, and this is why it's so important, at Samsung's Innovation Room, Florian personally demonstrated how improved that anti-glare layer was. So they listened. It wasn't where they listened and they said, okay, we're getting rid of the anti-glare. They listened and addressed exactly what was wrong with the anti-glare. They think this anti-glare is important, and that's the Samsung pivot we'll talk about later. But the anti-glare also wasn't perfect. Specifically, they're addressing the black lift, the loss of contrast, the shadow detail in a brighter room. All of that has been addressed in the coating this year, and Hugh showed it. And this kind of takes me to the LG G5 versus S95F demo, right? Not head-to-head. How LG chose to show the G5. It was on its own. Look, the G5 is great and improved. And I thought, I can't tell the difference because I don't have an image memory of the G4 side by side. I mean, it looks great, but how do I know it's
Yeah.
that much better? Now, Panasonic actually had the Z95A right next to the Z95B, right? This year's new 4-layer Cake OLED. But the issue here was the strength of the Panasonic is the skin tones, the depth of color, but the content they used, the people moved too fast. If you notice, Jennifer Gallet, everything is in slow motion. It allows you to sit and just appreciate the differences when you have TV side by side. I think she literally designs those videos for reviewers because everything is slow motion. It allows me to see the differences before it disappears. And short of asking Panasonic, can you put this on pause? I had to catch that loop maybe 7 times before I go, oh, I see. The G5, the reds are slightly deeper. The skin tones appears to be better saturated. Oh, here the white appears to be a little bit brighter, but it's moving so fast, I don't get that. Now, on the Samsung S95F demo next to the 95D, Florian hand shot these scenes. He flew to Cyprus. He climbed into a cave. He shot in HDR. He personally graded it so that you can see how the S95F is brighter. And then right where the shadow detail is, he says, okay, guys, now get your face 6 inches from the screen.
That was the big difference.
Let your eyes adjust to that shadow detail. And we're like, oh my gosh, there's more shadow detail in the S95F in a bright room than the S95D. And he was like guiding us through that content. That's what LG needed to demonstrate to me, oh, yes, that is a jump over the G4. And so to your point, Christian, don't discount the S95F yet until we get in for review, because after that, I'm like, okay, I'm back in. This anti-glare was addressed, because that's what we said. So, are they going to fix that coating? It appears they did.
So FOMO, if you also think about last year, we saw Florian we saw the anti-glare, or whatever they call it, at the first look. Then at the innovation is when Florian shot it next to the OLED. That's where I wasn't impressed. I did like it when I saw it with its true use case at Samsung Labs with the lamps, right, FOMO? So Florian did something different. The content that he shot, FOMO, didn't move at all. It was just a live shot from a cavern, and he let it sit there. And as FOMO was saying, no one ever asks you to move closer to the screen when it's 4K. That's typically for 8K. He had us get closer to what he shot with an 8K camera, I believe. And what he was trying to say was that we had the lights on and off on. Well, he turned them on and off, if you remember. It was more detail, not just due to the 4th Gen QD-OLED. The matte or the anti-glare enhanced it. So a lot of the enhancements are due to the anti-glare screen. I know a lot of you guys don't like it. I completely understand. And FOMO, also, our coverage of the S95F and 90F at the first look, those 83-inch panels, that anti-glare is very hard to capture on camera if there's any light. So it actually looks like it's blooming. And if we lower the exposure too much, it just darkens it and it looks dim, right, FOMO? So Florian's, and we really couldn't show you in detail what Florian was saying. We're going to try and get him on the channel at some point this year. Because Florian's background, FOMO, what does Florian do? I mean, literally is...
His nickname is... He's the doctor of HDR. So he creates plugins for DaVinci Resolve to help us measure HDR, capture HDR. If you see some of my older reviews, I have all these measurements that's showing comparisons. That's all Florian's software. He is one of maybe 5 in the world that knows exactly how HDR works, what the limitations are, what the luminance requirements are. I mean, he designs software to measure HDR. So when he captures it on his camera and then hand grades it, this is the guy that you would call and say, hey, can you make me HDR content that does this? I mean, he is the guru of end-to-end HDR production. And we're just talking HDR. He knows HDR, I would say, top 3 in the world in terms of the hard science, the hard chemistry, the physics. I mean, it's like this guy is here. Oh, and by the way, Samsung hired him to shoot their content. That's how Serious Samsung is about demonstrating the differences.
Yeah. So, and FOMO, I think that's the best part that I wish we could share more with you, that we see that you don't. And I know a lot of you guys, Plasma TV for gaming, hi everybody in the chat. I
Yes.
know your thoughts on the anti-glare. And believe me, you gotta watch us from the beginning of the year. And that's why, Christian, what I'm saying to you is the narrative that we get from this first week changes every few months. By the end of the
Yeah.
year, what we love now, look, at the end of the year, FOMO and I were filming Bravia 7s and QN85Ds. We
Right.
have to bet on our horse. Now, I'm going to do this for you guys. So the Christians, so before you choose that, if I put you guys, 400 of you, in that Samsung first look, and I said run around, I promise you guys would be giddy. And I
Yeah.
know it's hard to say that to you about seeing it in person, but Samsung, where it decimates everyone, is presentation and innovation. What they decide to try to go for, the lifestyle experience stuff that we don't talk about. But looking at that RGB micro LED, that TV, just the chassis is some James
Uh,
Bond type stuff.
that's a perfect
So I know you guys
segue.
don't like it as your
Yep.
home, but if I brought us to a class trip, you guys would be doing cartwheels. So don't get too crazy in what you hate. And trust me, if you want a Samsung, you're not going to have an opportunity to really buy one without that glare this year, right, FOMO?
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue to Christian's super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Christian. Also, FOMO, you called it. You said if Hisense wanted to be number one, they have to innovate this year. They heard you. So we're talking about the RGB Mini LED, but also I think RGB MicroLED was the best tech of CES, but no one really covered it. So Christian, great question. And that's why I have it up now. So let me take off that. So Samsung RGB MicroLED, Hisense RGB Mini LED. Ultimately, many of us believe that it's exactly the same technology. So let me stop right there for you to take that in. Samsung calls it RGB MicroLED. Hisense calls it RGB Mini LED. Essentially, it's an LCD TV using RGB backlighting so that you can control individual colors as part of the dimming zone. And you're removing the quantum dot layer because now you have colored lights. And quantum dot needs white light, right? A white backlight. So you can't use quantum dots anymore. You're using direct lit RGB Mini LED to help with the dimming zone. So let's say you have this bright yellow that's around my RGB Micro LED, right? Then behind that, if it's a Mini LED with this technology, the yellows would light up, right? You would have a combination of RGB that makes it yellow to help increase color saturation, color luminance, and that's why suddenly the color gamut has improved so much. So you're asking, wait, so what is RGB? What does Samsung call it? RGB Micro LED? And this is where a lot of us take issue with Samsung's very lax, aggressive terminology. We all know that when Samsung says Micro LED, it can mean anything from a true micro LED all the way up to a giant mini LED. They'll call it micro LED. So Samsung
It's like,
plays a bit loose with that terminology. It's essentially the same technology. And we think they're sourcing it from Hisense.
Yeah, so it's like basically me saying I'm a pro football player, and then I leave out the part that's pro football player on Madden. And I'm like the best Madden player.
Right. You left out that you're the professional Mountain Dew League player, right?
Yeah, little difference.
And what we discovered was Hisense is a homegrown technology, is the RGB Mini LED. They advised me that they acquired a micro LED company so they could have access to these micro LED, Mini LED technologies and designed it in-house. They're very proud of it, and it appears that Samsung was their first third-party customer. So that's where we are. So Christian, yes, not only did Hisense innovate for themselves, someone else turned around and said, hey, that looks pretty good. Now, as far as any more detail, that's the issue. Can you imagine Samsung saying, yeah, we kind of sourced it from Hisense? How does that sound? So they would rather not address it. Even when I went up to them, I go, wait, this is suspiciously similar to what I've seen before. Is this an LCD TV? And the Samsung guy, left and right, make sure no one's hearing, I think so. I'm like, it's okay, I'm not going to say anything. It's just between me and you, right?
What he really did was turn on the lights and go, show's over. Thanks for coming.
And notice how they put that RGB micro LED right next to all their real micro LEDs, right next to each other. So they wanted to give you that air of, This
Yeah,
is, you know, it's in the micro LED family, which isn't wrong, but it really is an LCD TV at 98 inches. The problem is
yeah,
Hisense is releasing the same technology at 116 inches. And so
yeah,
this is going to be a fun year because for the first time, Hisense and TCL are taking it to all the big brands with advanced technology that they want
yeah.
from Hisense and TCL. So that's pretty awesome. You know, what are your thoughts, Brian, when you saw, I know you loved RGB MicroLED. You ran up to me and said, where do I put my name on the waiting list?
Bro, I literally just filmed that thing the whole time. Like, you guys got to see it. Like, I'm not a small person. FOMO, tell them how your boy was just boxing people out. I had people walking into me almost not. I literally just put my arms out. I was pivoting. Someone's like, "Hey, we're shooting a video." I'm like, "You can wait." I was literally just focused this year. I was not getting pushed out. To me, that was the best looking TV in the show.
Oh, the packaging was
Bar none.
amazing. The
I mean,
aluminum case. Oh,
yeah, the
wow.
chassis, and Samsung again, their demo material blows away everyone. I mean that, especially what you see on the micro LEDs. So for me, that's the best thing I saw at CES. My video is not even coming out yet. I have TCL tomorrow. I'm waiting for Samsung at the end because there are so many questions, and they
Yeah.
had so much to show. Samsung continues to look. Our questions, FOMO, was: is it going to be anti-glare? They double down. Are we done with 8K? They double down. They have two models now. The 800 is gone. Now there's two 900s. One is bezel-less. The other one has a bit more of a frame. They're embracing artwork. Their new the frame TV has mini LED now, and actually looks very good. So everything that as enthusiasts we think we want. I know you guys say they don't listen to the fans. They listen to the money.
Hmm.
They're about sales. They don't care about us at all. Clearly, by 83-inch QD-OLED, they don't care about your boy at all. I mean, they just tease me. You got to watch that video. I'm basically crying in that. But go ahead. All right, love you.
And to Buddy's super chat, thank you, Buddy, for the
Buddy,
belated
buddy.
CES coffee. And you know what's funny, Buddy? That $10 wasn't even enough to get Brian half a NyQuil. So
The
for
most
us, the
expensive
$10, they
drink.
allow us to share half a coffee from Starbucks. But thank
The
you for
most
your
expensive
generosity.
drink I bought. And I bought whiskey at the Hisense event. That was expensive. The most expensive drink I bought was the NyQuil. I got
Yes.
Dayquil and NyQuil, and there were only two servings, $53. I was like, damn.
And the second
It was
half
funny.
of Buddy's super
What's up,
chat,
buddy?
love the UV OLED video, the ultraviolet TV video. If you guys missed it, that was today's video I put up. I've met with Nanosys. I was so shocked. I did not expect this. Another one of the surprises where Brian and I, the whole time, our jaw kept dropping lower and lower. And we're like, oh my God, this watch is blinding me. Brian's like, every time I look at the watch, it's like,
Yeah,
dang.
My poor Samsung Ultra was like, "Wah, wah." I tried to turn the brightness up, and you could see that watch from across the room. What I love about, and what was his name? Jeff. It was Jeff, right?
Jeff Urick.
Fomo?
Uh-huh.
So again, when you're talking about Florian in HDR, and then you're talking about Jeff, talking about quantum dot, they invented it. You're talking about him talking about and taking a meter and really showing how the quantum dots show up. He had a Bravia 9 and a Bravia 8. And more importantly, he had a W OLED and then he had a quantum dot OLED. And you could see where the color peaks blend together on the W OLED, but on the quantum dot OLED, very distinct colors and peaks. Not just some graph, literally boop, boop, here it is,
Yep.
motion interpolation. So when you see these guys specifically in a small hotel suite breaking it down, that's the stuff that you guys are missing. And to have FOMO put that up as his last video with all the coverage shows you how impactful, because they're not worried about micro LED at all, FOMO. They
Nope.
think that QD is still going to be there. So it'll be interesting to see them all kind of compete.
Absolutely, which takes us to back to Samsung. Christian, thank you for the super chat.
Christian hanging out with us all
Anti-glare,
night.
right? So this super chat perfectly segues to my topic about Samsung pivoting. Anti-glare, they didn't even have a QD OLED on display. Why? Will there be more panel lotteries this year? So Christian, I think they honestly didn't have enough to display. They're probably still in production. We saw it at the innovation room, but it was private. So some of us captured it. Brian and I captured it. So you'll see in our videos the comparisons. Actually, if you watch my video today, I showed you it next to the S95D in the introduction. So the first 40 seconds, you'll see that. So they have it on display, but in the back room for the professional VIPs like us who know Florian personally. But yeah, it's
Professional.
on
That's what we say
display.
about professional. You know, professional media. Well, not
Professional
really.
media. I know.
YouTube
Oh,
would be a skateboarder.
now, as far
So
as
Josh,
panel lottery, I don't think so. But let's talk about anti-glare real quick because you brought that up. So this is Samsung's pivot. Now, I know you're all upset. Oh my gosh, not only did they bring anti-glare back to the flagship S95 series, they added
they
it
put it
one
every.
step down. They added it across
Yeah.
the board. It's on an 8K TV. It's on a QN95 series, 90 series. It's everywhere. But stop. Let's just talk about why it's everywhere. On the one hand, I initially thought, wow, you guys must really like it. Okay, that's one aspect, but that's not it. Go deeper. What is their number one selling model? The frame. What is it that Chinese companies like TCL and Hisense, what is it they don't do well? Marketing, luxury. The frame literally costs, I'd say, half than what you're paying for it. I mean, the biggest margin is the frame. Think about it. It's the cheapest technology they have, right? Edge lit. I mean, it's ridiculously thin, but that's its only saving grace. Image quality is terrible, right? You're on a subscription plan to join the art forum, right? Where you have this rotation of art from all over the world. Yes, very high quality, very high bit rate, but ultimately, they're making huge money on the sale of the TV. That one sale, boom, they made more money than any other TV in terms of margin. Then you're on a subscription plan, that's like what, $149, $200 a year just to show you art, and you don't know how many people are actually on that subscription. So wait, they're like,
No,
wait
yeah.
a minute,
They do it for the
why,
year, and I bet you, yeah, and I bet you one of
why,
those things, Phil, when you buy, you
wait,
get 2 months free, and you forget to
yeah,
cancel it.
you forget to cancel it. Yeah, it's only 12 bucks a month. I like my, and the thing is, if you turn it off, you know what your wife or your significant other is going to say? What happened to the art?
Yeah,
I canceled it. What's wrong with you? Put it back on. And that's the
yeah.
thing. Once you
So,
hang it up and you're used to that art rotation, you're off the
yep.
subscription. No longer you have access to Pollock and Da Vinci and all these different artists from just across time and space and whatever. But then they go, wait, why are we limiting this to the frame? Why not make this across all our TVs so that every TV with that anti-glare is now an art installation? And that's exactly what they discussed in the innovation room. They're like, guess what, guys? Anti-glare, look how 8K looks with art. It is now high-resolution art. Look at our the one thing they don't have it is the QD-OLED. The QD-OLED will not display art because burn-in is still a thing, right? It's got the anti-glare, you don't get the art, but everything
You
else
don't get the
is
art
now
though.
an art display, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't too surprised, but hey, that's smart of them. And then they added mini LED to the frame to make it even brighter with better blacks. But it was an edge lit mini LED, which is like, wow. Edge lit with the little mini LEDs below the edge. I mean, it worked, but I'm like, because you need to be edge lit to be that thin. So guys, this is Samsung's pivot. They can't compete on hardcore specs, but where they will beat you is the marketing, that lifestyle promotion. Hey, you want art? And I know Hisense has the canvas and TCL has their own, I forgot what it's called now, but Samsung's package is pretty convincing. Now, once Hisense and TCL figures that out, we'll see what Samsung does, right? But for now, this is Samsung's pivot, is, okay, you know what, we can't beat them on pure hardware specs, let's beat them on just lifestyle stuff. So that's just something to think about.
Well, and I mean, so you gotta remember, guys. Last year, I was the first to really dislike it among the influencing whatever the hell we are. FOMO was all about it. Then FOMO hated it. But I will tell you that in person, not on camera, and with Florian's demo, I pre-ordered it. You understand that I literally hit up Value Electronics the minute that the embargo was up, which was actually that evening. I said to Wendy Zahn, I need this and I need it at launch. Not a review sample. I want to buy it. So even though you guys don't like it and I'm not a fan of it, I've seen it in so many different ways that I'm okay with it, knowing what it really brings. I understand why you don't like it. Now, I'll also say, I think I want a new TV. I'm kind of wanting an 83-inch OLED. I'll probably do the G5 the same way and just be a beta tester for you, but that'll be in my home. It won't be in the studio. I'll buy that just to have it. And I'll review the other sizes, FOMO. But, you know, they clearly are onto something, because even one of their 8Ks has a super matte finish, just like the
Wait,
frame.
not just matte, super matte. Oh, but
Super matte.
to your point,
Super
look,
extreme matte. What's up, SD?
Josh 4K is showing art on his
What's up,
8K
Josh?
TV. So there you go. You know, all right. But go ahead, Charles. Sorry, I just had to jump in because that was just like perfect timing.
No. I mean, because I saw SD put a comment about QD-OLED being gone. Again, SD, I appreciate that. What's up, my brother? You got to understand, if I'm sitting with Hisense, I'm looking at RGB tandem OLEDs and RGB mini LEDs and all this, and then micro LEDs, and then I sit with Nanosys and I see what they're doing with quantum dots. Trust me, no one is going anywhere. Everyone is going full force. In quantum, in Samsung displays implementations are not just TVs. They're doing everything. Cars, I mean, phones. Their phone was insane. So I get what you're saying. I think the challenge with Samsung Display and QD-OLED is they are going to hit a ceiling in terms of size. And I believe 100% you will never see an 83-inch QD-OLED. Simply because, as we talked about, FOMO, the tooling, the manufacturing, the mother glass involved for a very specific size, when the rest of the world is going 85. You know, FOMO, when they sit in those meetings, someone says, I need an 83. Someone goes, 83? We're on 85.
So Brian, let me pause you. Let me stop you right there. Let's talk 83 inches, because I should have mentioned this, right? So QD-OLED will be extinct, and I think it's related to this discussion. Why did Panasonic choose for the Z95B LG's 4-layer cake, right? That new 4-layer, 4-stack, whatever you want to call it, OLED. They had the QD-OLED available to them. They could have chose it. Price is probably going to be very similar.
I predicted it. I predicted it.
Yeah, and they said to me, we think we're going to win with this, right? The engineer, they're like, look, we assess the technology. We feel this is the way to go. Now, is it because they also, meaning Samsung, also will not be offering an 83-inch QD-OLED? If you want to offer all sizes from 55 to 83 at the highest end, you almost have to choose LG, right? Because you get the 4-stack all the way up, right? You can't go halfway, like 83-inch is 4-stack, but everything else is QD. You're going to be consistent, because otherwise you have different software tuning.
So stay right there. I think, to your point, if Panasonic went with the 4-layer stack for any other reason besides what's that? Besides, they thought it was the best. They're not releasing an 83. So there's no reason for them not to go with QD-OLED. If they were going to stop at 77 anyway,
that is
and like Sony, and we're going to prove this right now. Sony many years ago said the advantage to sourcing these panels is, again, on a dime. They choose what they believe is best. So many of you think Sony all of a sudden is like broke. They don't have any money. Guys, when you see Sony's booth, Sony's TV is a vanity thing. They will never let it go. Their whole company's built on like the Walkman, the Trinitron. They're going to support it forever. That engineering team, who we know, is choosing what they think is the best. If they leave QD-OLED behind, it's not because they think, oh my God, it's so expensive. They're going to go for what they think is the best for them. Now, that might be amount of manufacturing cost, maybe FOMO, or availability. But Sony would not leave QD-OLED, which literally won 3 years in a row. No, 4 years in a row, I think. They're going to something they think is better for what they need. Now, that might be, as one I talked about off camera, that Panasonic and Sony both love accuracy. So perhaps they found a way to be more accurate with the double or the quadruple cheeseburger.
4-layer cake?
Yeah, the Wendy's triple stack burger. But my point is, we thought they would all go to QD-OLED at some point. And before you ask, can LG add MLA on top of this stack? Yes, they can. However, it was so expensive, it would make no sense to do that. Literally.
Let's talk about the conspiracy theory about this then, right? Which is LG takes away MLA, introduces the 4-layer cake, and then next year, guess what? We got another 1,000 nits for you. brings back MLA and charges an extra $500. You know how many people would buy that? They go, oh my gosh, 4-layer and MLA. So this year with MLA, they're able to improve their margins, maybe pass the savings on to you, maybe, I hope. But then next year, they can raise prices one more time by adding MLA back with the 4-layer. Now, speculation, right? This is all of us cynics. Every TV reviewer I met kind of said, what do you think, FOMO? You think this? I'm like, I totally think it. That's such a great idea, right? So let me ask you guys, are you willing to skip the G5 and pay a little bit more next year for the G6 if it has MLA, right? So take all the benefits of this year's G5, add MLA, maybe slightly improved, tweaked a little bit more, right? How would that look? You would hit 4,000 nits, would you not? Because they're still at 3,000, right? I think that's what the CES specs were, and they need to be at 4,000. QD-OLED is there. They will get to 4,000 with MLA. They have to. You can't just sit there. Brian, would you skip G5 if I told you G6 MLA is coming with the 4-stack? 83-inch.
Yes. If that now, why I think that's improbable is you got to remember,
improbable.
It's impossible because
impossible.
Here's my analogy. When we talk about Call of Duty, I should say Madden. When you guys say Madden, Madden seems the same every year. So when the Madden releases, they don't have 12 months. They've already started. They only have about 8 months to develop that new display. So for them to take MLA away and then now behind the scenes finish this TV and then try to create a new one with MLA is absurd. They would be ripped to pieces for doing that, especially since at CES. And look, shout out to David Park, Don,
wait,
George,
Brian, who would rip them? Who would rip them to pieces?
The industry would just destroy them. They would just destroy them because literally, I've never seen. They answered nothing.
Nope.
I mean, they didn't even. I mean, literally, it was so vague. And why I struggled with it in our last live stream was this: MLA is something I spent a lot of time on, talking about what its implementations are, why you're choosing that over the C series, micro lens array, the new processor. Now MLA was removed without any, other than it was expensive, which is the worst excuse to take away a feature. Hey guys, it was expensive, but trust me, the car is just as fast. Now, had they given us the information, right, FOMO? Look, that horsepower is crazy, but trust me, it's quick. And we have to always be careful of perceived brightness or perceptual or psycho. What's it called, FOMO? Psychoanalysis?
Psychoperceptual.
Psychoperceptual. So that's not what they said. They said it was more efficient, more color, and it was brighter. Now, it's not brighter than the G4 by 40%. It's brighter than the B series by 40%. So be careful there. The G4 was bright enough.
Now, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, SD loved QD-OLED, but look at their prediction. LG doesn't need MLA now with QD-OLED fading away.
Fading away.
They'll go back to releasing. So basically, LG has come back from the dead and is winning the OLED race. I honestly don't know where Samsung's going with this. But they look very happy.
I know why. Yeah, SD, you're saying that I know because Sony is apparently walking away from it. Now, maybe
they're not selling enough of them. I mean, it's all a business case ultimately.
Well, Sony's top-selling TV is the Bravia 3. So not the Bravia 9, not the A95L, the cheap one you guys see in the store. The best-selling TV from Samsung is the Frame.
And SD is correct in the sense that if Samsung Display cannot sell its QD-OLED outside of Samsung TVs, they're in trouble. So if they were hoping that Panasonic and Sony would buy it, and they didn't, and again, this is all speculation. We know Panasonic did buy from LG. But if Sony stops buying QD-OLED and starts to buy from LG this year and next year, that's going to hurt Samsung Display because then why get bigger? And maybe that's why they didn't do 83 inches. They don't have enough buyers for 83-inch other than their own Samsung Electronics. They'll focus on monitors. I know the monitor, the PC gamers like it, but...
Yeah, but FOMO, stay there. Why was the 83-inch A80L carried over? I promise you they didn't sell enough of them. It's still not an affordable size. Though all of us... See, here's the funny thing. We talked about this with the manufacturers too, FOMO. Just 2 years ago, 65 was as big as people wanted to go. Right? 4K wasn't going to get bigger. You need 8K. The minute those prices went down, everybody and their mother was jumping over the fence. They wanted 100 inches. All you guys, and
Yes.
I know you guys individually, 2 years ago, 75 is stupid. That's too big. You need 8K for that size, except for Josh 8K if he's
Brian,
here.
Walmart sold out of its 98-inch TVs that went to
Yeah,
1400. It was gone at 1400.
yeah, but like freaking Costco has this. So when I was filming Costco the other day, their 98-inch TV was $14.99. You can buy ribeyes for that. Some tires at that
Well,
place. I mean,
definitely at Las Vegas you could.
yeah. So yeah, well, our dinners were more than that. But the fact is, everyone is open to that. So now that they know better than we are where the market is shifting. 83 is actually too small to put resources into. I'm feeling 83 is the original LG size. That is their creation. So I think they're sticking with it. But I can't see them. I can't see the other companies adopting it. It's just not popular.
Brian, can I tell you a funny story?
What's up, Rick?
Rick, and this relates to Rick. So, hey, Rick, every time I buy, a month later, I think I should have gotten the bigger one. So Rick was telling me over the holidays, he was looking at a 100-inch TV, and, you know, they have this tight turn in their house. And his wife says to him, this 100-inch is kind of big. Maybe we should get a 98-inch. And I'm thinking, wow. You know, if my wife thought that way, that'd be great. But Brian, what do you think of that? This 100-inch is kind of big. It might not fit. How about the 98-inch? And Rick's like,
See,
okay,
you
let's
guys
do
don't
it.
understand. The term of positive manipulation is when it comes to wanting something, aim higher and then have them default down. Say, look, I want a micro LED. They're like 400 grand. Then start working your way back, and before you know it, you'll get that $5,000. You'll get what Terry got, the Z9K, which is if Terry's like in the. I love Terry. Terry bought the Z9K. I think 3 years ago. And he's like, Bri, is there going to be another 8K Sony? I'm like, I don't know, Terry. I don't know. So right now, Terry has the current Sony 8K Mini LED, the last of the Mohegans. And those of you that have an A95L or like Lisa, what's up, Lise? Having the A95K, you have one of the last two Sony QD-OLED. So these are all collector's pieces, right, Foma?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, speaking of collector's
See,
pieces,
Rick knows. Start high, baby. Start high. I want 1,000-inch.
Buddy Love wants us to go back to 2023. Google back to my comment in 2023. Yes, most likely it was starred and hearted. I told y'all QD-OLED wasn't putting LG out of business. Never count out LG. And so here's the part that pains my soul. On the one hand, you can't count out LG, but LG Display cannot make money selling large OLED TVs. And so this is a conundrum for LG Display. Great technology, right? Innovative. They're doing what they can, and they're losing money hand over fist. At what point?
Yeah.
I mean, how long can they go like this? Is my question, right?
Well,
I want LG to survive, but
so
what do we
clearly
do?
by removing MLA, which is their creation,
It's going to save them money. Yes.
There's no new Z series right now. They will release one later in the year, and there will not be a 97-inch G5. The G4 just released 2 months ago. So you're seeing where they're having to pick and choose, much like Sony is dovetailing their releases. They're saying, okay, you have the Bravia 9 this year, and that leak that we saw, some of it makes no sense. 77-inch mini LEDs. So we'll have a whole video.
We should just mention that real quick because Sony was not at CES, and this really is a CES wrap-up.
Whoa, were they? I don't know.
Oh, they were there,
there.
Right, they
Got
were
your boy
there.
Another ribeye.
They were there, but no TV, right? So just real quick, the Sony leak from China. I want to give you guys some context. So this leaker leaked the 2024 lineup, the Bravias, right? They leaked the names, Bravia 7, Bravia 8, Bravia 10. Turned out to be accurate, so they're leaking again. And this time the leak is like outrageous because it's mixing and matching Mini LED with OLED in the same range. So you get this Bravia, and then within that Bravia range, you got a Mini LED, and then the larger sizes are the Mini LED, and the smaller sizes are OLED. You're like, wait, what? Now, there's some logic to that because large OLEDs are very expensive. So when you get to a certain large size, maybe Mini LED is so good, it looks OLED-like. They're bringing the OLED. I mean, I'm trying to twist logic to make it work, but it doesn't look like it makes sense to mix and match the technology. And so that's why a lot of us, now no one knows the truth. One, it's a leak from China. This could be unique to China. This strange mixing and matching of panels doesn't mean the
77-inch
leak
mini
is
Chinese,
wrong. What?
Chinese edition. We do a 77-inch mini
The
LED. We
Chinese
don't even care.
edition, right? Now,
We don't
maybe
care,
it
baby.
comes to
Seven inch
USA,
rock.
but can you imagine the media outcry? I mean, it's, I don't know if Sony wants that kind of attention, but hey, I could be wrong. I have no inside information. I tried to ask Sony. They're like, we can't comment because we cannot say anything because, you know, wait till the spring when they normally launch
Yeah.
their TV and stuff. So no comment from Sony. All we can do is continue to
FOMO.
speculate both sides
So
of that argument.
FOMO. This is the thing that also we talk about these NDAs and things like that. They're so strict from the manufacturers that I can't even ask the manufacturer if it's okay to talk about it. So when I receive an email, I'm like, I can't even ask all these people I know at these companies because then I'd be breaking the NDA. So you literally can't say anything. So we kept a lot of those numbers, but I'd say right now we have no idea. So nothing is out there. There is none of that. So there's no NDA in regards to that. We have no clue. We brought it up to Sony, who wasn't there. They weren't there. I brought it up to PlayStation 5 Pro in the corner. I said, "Is this true?" And it just kind of blinked at me. So no.
Wait,
LG
wait, I can address this
like
comment. This is the best comment. Maybe FOMO should start putting disclaimers on his videos sponsored by LG. And this is why I got to put the comment, if only. So I think 2 years ago when LG released
2 years ago, 3 months ago,
3 years ago, LG released their QNED. And I was just, this is a terrible TV. I mean, it was, I did not like it at all. And, you know, I put up the video, and then LG reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like to sponsor you to talk about the benefits of OLED, not the QNED, right? I'm like, I don't mind taking their money because I do love OLED. And I will talk OLED for gaming, and, you know, I'll take the sponsorship money, right? And so like, yeah, I'll take your money to talk about how great OLED is. And then I said, and so I told my agent, let LG know. I'm Stop the FOMO. And I have a reputation for bagging on LG's QNED. I don't want them taking that money back after I've produced the video. And so he goes back. And then I said, what happened? Yeah, they figured out who you were. The money is no longer on the table. I'm like, see, I knew it. So believe me, if I'm sponsored by LG, you'd know it. Like CES, I was sponsored by Hisense to go there and shoot Hisense stuff. Like, yeah, you know what, have fun. I'll take your money and shoot Hisense at CES, right? Yeah. You saw my video, sponsored by Hisense. LG has never sponsored me for, I tried to ask them for money. Hey, LG, I'll take your money. You want me to do a showcase? Yeah. They wouldn't even return my call. So believe me, LG and FOMO.
Yeah. Well, for you guys, you have to understand what a showcase is instead of a review. A showcase is what you see at CES. We showcase anyway. We're just showing what they have there. So to sponsor a showcase is appropriate. To say this review is sponsored by whoever, that doesn't work. But the funny thing is when FOMO, forget about the QNED review or what you said. I remember when you did something like, I think LG is on life support, something like that. And somebody from LG is like, yo, what's up with your boy? I'm like,
ask him. Ask him. Why doesn't he like us? I'm like, what are you talking about?
TMZ. You get some clickbait. You're like, like you got a tombstone up there. He's like, yo, what's up with your boy?
I was on Sony's bad bucket list for a long time. After I did that X98, was it the X900 or the X900H fiasco with the VRR? Sony's like, I caused them so much heartbreak and weekend work by saying, well, look, this leak says that Sony no longer has VRR. What's up with that? Oh my God. The backlash that Sony got from that. And they haven't forgiven me.
Wait, it took me 2 years to get FOMO back with Sony to where they would even talk to him because he was
just to talk to me, you know, that's
nope. I was like, can I bring FOMO? They're like,
Right. So this is a press event. This is a press event where they, you know, they hand select influencers to go, and so they selected Brian, right? Hey, Brian, and Brian, hey, can I bring FOMO? And they're like, let me call. I mean, his name is here. You got to call and ask permission before we let him through the door.
Yeah.
So you guys don't understand. It's very personal.
That was because a lot of times it depends. Like I had Rob Brennan as a friend who was big at Sony, and he was trying to get me in, and my channel wasn't large enough. So when there was an event, I was like, look, can I, this was before we went to California. It was the New York event that I didn't get into. I'm like, Rob, I work close with my boy FOMO. He's like, no. It was just flat out no. I was like, okay. And then later on, when you saw us at Culver City, that's when he was like, let me check. But he sees us work together. He knows that, FOMO puts out the information. Yeah, he's got some of the thumbnails are a little racy.
Racy.
A lot of nudity in the thumbnails.
I don't think I want any friends with my LG panic mode.
Yeah.
LG panic mode thumbnail, right? So what's the biggest OLED now, Jizzy Jake? It is a 97-inch LG G4. That would be around $25,000. If you get on sale, maybe it's like $22,000, but it's over $20,000 for the 97-inch G4. Now, the M series 97-inch is zero connect box, if you're interested in that, but they're 97-inch OLEDs. So, but they're over $20,000. Something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And let's see. You guys are awesome. Look at this.
We have 500 in the chat, guys. Hit like, please. We appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, and ask your questions. Now, someone went to CES and they were overwhelmed, and that is definitely what happened to me, you. Okay, so Everyday Jay, as CS vets, how would you think about this year's show? I went for the first time, was a bit overwhelmed. So this year was the largest show since the pandemic, right? So at that time, show was shut down, remote only. Then the following year, it was tiny, like 10,000. And then it kept on growing. This year was the first time it exceeded the size prior to 2021, which is a shocker, right? So, but that's just the crowd. As far as the showcase and the displays and the exhibitors, they're back to where they were. And this is how it normally is. It's overwhelming if you try to catch everything. You have to choose your poison. Do you want to hit audio? Do you want to hit home entertainment, robotics, adult toys, healthcare, fitness, food, appliances, robotics, right? Every section is huge, and 3 days is barely enough. And then poor Brian, who is wearing his fancy cowboy boots, dancing shoes.
No. Dancing shoes. I try to dress nice. Almost
He
wearing
did.
like
No,
Nikes.
no. You're nice. I'm like, dude, I have my Brooks running shoes on. He goes, look, man, you never know. Full body image, right? He's all like, catch my whole body. Yeah. I'm like, nope, from the waist up.
Yeah. So I can speak to this better for Everyday Jay. So Jay, this is my third. And the first year I was still there focused on TVs. And the booths this year were very close to one another. TCL and Hisense are right next to each other. Panasonic is behind them. Samsung's booth is totally separate. You have to wait in line for that one. You have to wait in line for Panasonic. LG's is totally on the other side. Sony has its own corner. You can easily get into a corner of that place where you have no idea where you are. And this year especially, Jay, they had a lot of the entrances were shut because they had construction. Me and this dude put in like 20,000 steps going around the building. So there's times where you think you're heading to one layer. The maps are like segmented. You can end up you can end up walking into the back of an LG thinking you're someplace else. There's a lot of robotics, a lot of audio. It's everything. There's toilets, there's refrigerators. So TVs are actually the minority of what's there, and every manufacturer is getting smaller and smaller. LG, I didn't even go to their booth this year because I knew their TVs wouldn't be there. They weren't there last year. Only the transparent OLED was there last year. Samsung only had the 8K TVs last year. So going there looking for TVs is hard unless you have an invite to these events. Even TCL this year, FOMO, their main 3 TVs, especially the 6, which is going to be the first TV released by them, you can pre-order it right now.
Did you say the 6?
I'll show that video tomorrow. The 6.
You said the 6. I was responding to some guy talking about the Adult Video Awards. I go, wait, what did you say? Oh, okay. The 6.
The 6. Mine in the gutter. Brittany over here talking about all this stuff here in the chat too. She's starting them all. Brittany over there. What's up, Britt?
Troublemaker. Troublemaker.
And Brittany is stirring up the pot in there. The only her and Lee's are the only girls in the whole spot. Out of 500.
Get me in trouble. They want my channel to be canceled. And the year's just started.
So Jay, you're overwhelmed because things are not put aside. You had a lot of projector brands there. So I totally understand. You have to say to yourself, what do you want to see when you're there? If you're there as somebody who wants to see the best technology, things like Sony's booth had really cool, like almost Disney-esque exhibits, right, FOMO? We saw some cool stuff at their booth.
Yes.
So I would just say next time, Jay, say to yourself, what do I want to see? And then map out days where you focus on that.
And we have a question for you, Brian. SGX 818 gamers. I got my wife, Brian, to agree for a new LG 77-inch C series from a 77 B3, right? So it's an upgrade. Should I buy the C4 or is the C5 worth waiting for? Now, I'll just throw in real quick. C5 is known this year for its AI features, and they're doubling down on ads. But as far as upgrades, I don't know. But Brian, what are your thoughts going from a 77B3? I'm hesitant to encourage them to keep that size and just go up from the B to the C. I don't know.
Yeah, I like the C series year after year. There is a pixel boost, which is about 10% brighter year after year. They are brighter. There is a noticeable little jump. Is that worth it if you're coming from a B3? B3 was not, bright at all. So I think you'll be fine. But I think what you should have done is aimed for the 83-inch G4 and then have her knock you down to the 77-inch G4. So I would go back to your wife and say, hey, look, honey, this idiot on his wife is named Brian. So I would go back to her. Just don't show her this video. If she's in there, tap out, put it in the comments. I would say, honey, you know what? Brian said the C series discontinued is garbage. I need a G4, and then have her knock you down to a 77-inch G4. That's where I would go, right, FOMO?
Absolutely. And I want to hit Lisa's question.
I would say with the C4, honestly, I think you appreciate the C4. I think the C5 is going to be expensive a bunch. Or go with the QD-OLED.
77-inch QD-OLED. The S90D would be a great choice. Enough about TV, says Lisa. How about the food at CES? So I'm going to start off with our food experience and my recommendation. The best buffet. The best buffet, bar none, at Vegas in terms of price to quality. The Wynn Hotel brunch is $59. The Wynn Hotel dinner is $75. But all you're getting is a few extra meat dishes that, like a leg of lamb. But the brunch had all of that, just missing the leg of lamb. Dessert's the same. I thought that brunch was definitely worth the $59. I think we easily had over $100 worth of steaks and shrimp and everything. Between him and I, it was like over $200 for $59 a person. In the morning, we spent $40 just on a burger. So yeah, the Wynn food, highly recommended.
So Lise, that's a different question. So the food at CES is very close to like the Fire Festival. It's like 2 pieces of bread, chips for like $60. So the food at CES is horrible. At CES, I would not buy a piece of pizza there or a hot dog.
Oh, she meant at the venue at CES. You're right. It's horrible. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Lisa, don't go there looking for some Wagyu, baby girl. You're going to go there and get some Blaze for $100. Me and this dude have not gotten water at CES. So FOMO's talking about the Wynn had this banging buffet. Wagyu, prime rib, they had everything. $60. And then we hit that twice. You go home now. You've been here 5 hours. So we did that twice in the same day. And then we did the Caesars buffet, which was very good as well. Yeah, they had king crab, Chinese food. We also did another dinner at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, which was very good. And then we did, I can't remember, we went with at the resort hotel, Breza at World Resorts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So but I would say if you were on your own paying for those $200 or $300 minimum for 2 people, if you're not drinking at all, the buffets were actually the most bang for the buck. We don't really drink. At least you guys think I drink a lot, but we literally just had $60. It was amazing.
And
Chris, we're fasting now.
Chris just wants to contribute to our fund of fun. So Chris, I have no comment. Just take my money. Thank you, Chris. We're glad you're here. And Seek, is it possible for a layman to go to CES just for fun. Absolutely. Brian was technically a layman the first time he went. I said, hey, if your wife's
What?
in the business,
No,
if
no,
anyone's
no.
in the
Stop,
business,
stop,
right,
stop,
you could
stop,
have gone.
stop, stop.
Wait,
That's not
wait.
true. You need to have a certain amount of subscribers and watch time to go for free as media. Then you're there as media.
Oh no!
So
You
he
meant to
told,
go for free. He said he just wants to pay. You can
yeah, you
go
can't.
if you're a
There's
member
a
of the
difference.
industry
If you want
and
to go as
pay.
a media or get into some of the events as media, which means you have to get in early, you get access. He talked me into going, but my channel was above and beyond what you needed. But you do need to have media credentials. You need to have watch time, a channel. If you want to pay, yes, but you're limited to which days, FOMO.
Well,
There are some
so
days where you can
you go on the actual days. So the actual days of CES is Tuesday through
pay.
Friday. And you have to show from your employer that you work in the industry. And when I say work in the industry, it's very broad. Almost anything that has tech, you're in
Exhibitor,
the
yeah.
industry, right? You could be selling shoes. Oh, I sell shoes online. You're in the industry. That's fine. And you pay 150 bucks. So anyone can go as long as you're a quote unquote employer, including being self-employed. And then they go, okay, he's close enough in the industry. And then you write a letter saying, hey, I'm the president of myself. I want to go because my business sells shoes online.
I own a media
Done.
company. It's called High.
It's
I
called
specialize
High.
in yeah, but it's a really cool event. It just if you're expecting there to go see TVs, there's less and less TVs on the main floor, so I can't recommend going there if you're looking for just TVs.
Yeah. And we got some pretty good questions,
What's up, AJ?
actually. Yeah. CS is supposed to be industry and media only. The industry part, they've really broadened it. So almost anyone could technically be in the technology. I mean, you can't avoid technology, right? Even the Amish, I'm sure, could find a way to angle their way in.
With the new
Where was
buggy.
Mr. Chow? How convenient was that? It's in Caesar's
How do you
Palace.
know about Mr. Charlie's? How you know?
That's where we stayed. So we stayed at Caesar's Palace. It's next to our elevator. Boom, dropped down, went to Mr. Chow's, hung out, and went back upstairs. It was pretty awesome.
So if you guys don't know about Mr. Childs, that was a Hisense, what'd you call it, FOMO mixer. And if you go on my community tab, you'll see me, FOMO, Be the Installer, Tech Steve, Chana, and then you'll see me, Vincent, and FOMO got them together. And we saw Rasmus from Flat Panels HD. That's really the only time that we actually hung out with everybody else. For the most time, we were solo, just running around.
Okay, so M. Mill has a good point. Views are dropping. I got to talk OLED again. And this is a great segue. Hisense versus TCL. They're going upmarket. They're attacking LG's OLED market, right? The 4-layer cake. Their TVs are $4,000. Now, here's the problem. Hisense and TCL are now selling $4,000 TVs as well, except they're not OLED. They're much larger. They're high-quality mini LEDs. So you have maybe a 65-inch, $3,000 4-layer cake OLED from LG, right? The G5, or the Samsung S95D, around $4,000 for the 77-inch, $5,000 for the 77-inch, right? And then you have Hisense and TCL selling very similarly priced TVs, the flagship mini LEDs. So TCL will be releasing the X11K 98-inch for probably over $10,000. Hisense will be releasing their 116-inch RGB mini LED, and that one, many people are guessing, are definitely is going to be over $10,000. And at this point, this is where Samsung and LG used to be the sole domain, and then Sony as well, when they were selling their 8K TVs. Over $10,000, or around $10,000, is the best from LG and Samsung. And here we have TCL and Hisense throwing out TVs at that price point. And Hisense and TCL have a very interesting rivalry here. So when Hisense released their 115-inch, or when TCL released a 115-inch last year, Hisense waited until the last minute to announce the 116-inch because they were afraid TCL would release a 117-inch at CES. But you notice TCL did not mention any other TV sizes other than last year's size. They were waiting for Hisense to lock into 116. Brian's theory is there's a 117-inch waiting because they were waiting for Hisense to announce 116. They're vertically integrated, right, Brian? Your theory is they went back and said, guys, give me another inch. And they're going to launch
Yeah.
117. Now, that's your prediction, no inside information, and I totally believe it.
So it is because, what's funny is, so we were part of the press briefing, and it was so funny when Hisense mentioned the RGB Mini LED, which caught our ear. But the funniest part was 116, not 118, not 120, 116. And again, that was under NDA, so we couldn't talk about it. But I'm telling you that TCL, I think, released the QM8 115 to the public pretty late in the year, and there's no other reason why they wouldn't put out another QM8. It's very confusing because now the QM7 typically tends to be as good as last year's QM8. So I'm fairly certain they're going to say to themselves, okay, you got that. We'll then release a 117. And guys, they don't need CES to release things. They'll gladly, I'm surprised, they'll be the first ones to release the TV this year, which is something they've never done. They usually are very haphazard. That 6 will be out. Now, when you look at the 6 footage, you're going to see that they have a matte screen on that as well. What sets TCL apart is they have 2 versions. So out of their 2 TVs, the Q6 and the 7, you'll literally be able to choose one with a matte screen and one without. So that's something they're doing totally different. And if the matte doesn't do well FOMO, they'll remove it.
Absolutely. Mighty Wookie has a great question. Has TCL and Hisense closed the gap in terms of processing this year? So, in speaking to both of them, Hisense has elevated their processor, the hardware at least, so it could process even more, not just AI in terms of AI functionality, but image processing. But it all comes down to the actual comparisons with Sony and Panasonic and Samsung and LG, right? TCL was very specific with me though. So where Hisense says, yeah, we improved the processor, we increased the processing cycles and all of this, TCL was very specific. We addressed that shadow detail issue that you didn't like, which was black crushing. I'm like, all right. And TCL added HVA, the more extended viewing angle. So it's not WHVA, it's HVA first. So this year's HVA. Next year will be WHVA or HVA Pro. We don't know how they're going to call it. So HVA has been released at TCL and I think at Samsung as well. And it looked like it worked. I was looking at off angle, on angle, the QM6K. So this is their entry-level mini LED. It's solid. Last year, the Bravia 7, the QM7, the QM8, a little bit off angle and you lost color. This year, that wasn't the case. I was in their demo room and I kept them moving back and forth. I'm like, man, if this continues to look as good, when I get this back, or when I get the review sample, I'm going to put it up against the Bravia 9. I have to say, I'm so impressed that TCL and Hisense, just year to year, they listen. Not only do they put out the hype, they put out actual technology that specifically addresses my complaints. I'm very happy to hear that, but we're going to definitely see how that compares to the Bravia 9. Because Bravia 9 is my reference TV. Doesn't matter how much you pay, right? Because a lot of people complain, wait, FOMO, what do you compare a $5,000, $4,000 Bravia 9 with a $1,000 TCL or Hisense? I'm like, you guys don't understand. TCL and Hisense are vertically integrated. Their TV, if sold by anyone else, would be almost $5,000. They are literally selling at their cost to get market share. That processing is the only thing short, and that's what I'm looking at. But the hardware specs, the audio, it's right there, right? Yeah, their casing isn't solid steel, but Brian, what are your thoughts on the TCL and Hisense, just the processing this year?
So I mean, someone said that they think that TCL and Hisense should join together and take on the big 3. Our predictions, at least mine, is in 4 years they're going to be the top 2.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to just jump over. They're like the Stu Leonards, if you're familiar with that supermarket chain. They'll bring the stuff in house. They'll take it apart and they will literally just expand upon it. Whether it's the backlight you see on Sony, you're going to see they had the cutout at Sony last year. TCL had the same thing this year, but also FOMO, they had that last year. They just made it better this year because they showed their generational TVs and showed how elegant the backlight is getting. The QM8 at 115 is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, that TV is beautiful. I'd buy that right now. So they are literally getting to that point. Now, when you mean processing, it's still accuracy, color, reproduction, and upscaling is where they're bringing it up. But they're getting better and better every year. You talk about the U8K and the U8N, the U7K, the QM7s, the QM8s. These TVs are getting better every year. They're not incremental upgrades. They're much better than they were last year. You see, the U8N wasn't even as bright. It was just more refined in its backlight. So they're getting better, FOMO, also with Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus. They're getting better at resolving that. Jay Harp, I'm not drinking, my man.
He's
What these
still
guys think
recovering
I'm
from his cold. Come on now. Be kind. Be kind.
I love the
We
haters
want
that
we, we want RGB backlight. So Tanvir,
that's what it is.
I do want to splash a little cold water on the RGB backlight. Not because I think it's bad. I don't know how it's going to perform, but I have to temper my expectation with this. So RGB backlight means there's no quantum dot layer on these LCD TVs. And you guys are very used to the quantum dot layer on LCD TVs, right? When you see, what they call it, the QLED, quantum dot LED, those are quantum dot LCD TVs. What the quantum dot does is it eliminates the red decay issue, which often causes red ghosting. So when you take away that quantum dot, fast-moving images where there's some red in it, it may reintroduce red ghosting. Now, I'm going to test that, and we'll see. They're going to have to find a way to address that red because it's specific to LCD panel. When the red hits the LCD panel, it sticks on the LCD panel, and it takes longer to decay.
Yeah.
It's what it is, right? So if you look at LCD monitors that don't have quantum dot, fast motion, oh, I have this red ghosting. That's the issue, and quantum dot eliminates that. And that's what Nanosys wanted to tell everyone is, look, make sure you buy a monitor that's LCD. If the monitor is LCD, make sure it has quantum dots in the backlight so that you don't have that red ghosting issue. RGB backlights cannot use quantum dot. Quantum dot requires white backlight. So the traditional white mini LED is fine. They switched out to RGB backlight. Suddenly the quantum dot backlight layer does not work. That film will not work with RGB backlight.
So, FOMO,
So
he's
this will be
asking not
interesting.
about, but he's not asking about a quantum dot backlight. He's asking about an RGB backlight.
Well, that's what I'm saying. An RGB backlight eliminates the quantum dot. White
Yeah.
backlight has the quantum dot. So if you want RGB backlight, you've also eliminated the quantum dot film that comes with all mini LED because most mini LED before RGB backlight was white mini LED backlight. Now you have RGB mini LED backlight, and that means no quantum dot in that layer. And what does that mean? We'll see. So that's something I'm going to test. I'm hoping TCL, Hisense, and Samsung is watching this and testing for red ghosting. And before they release it, either address it in software or find a way to minimize red ghosting if it's there. Maybe it's not there, right? We'll see.
FOMO, put up SB's video, SB's comment, please. It's shooting a little
SB,
laugh.
Sony? Is it Sony doing?
Sony doing a
Okay.
disservice by not being at CES.
There we go. Okay.
So SB, I know why you think that. Why they're doing that is, and this is why we get called shills for Sony, is at the end of the year, they're all we talk about. So once LG and Samsung release their best, they neutralize each other. Hisense and TCL hang back. Sony ends up being, if you look at our videos, the last 5, 6, 7 videos are Sony, 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 Sony. It also takes the pressure out of them having to release TVs early. They can still finish and put the finishing touches on what they want to do. So it's not that they are doing a disservice. The conversation, they're still being talked about right now. You're talking about them right now. LG has just showed they released no information, but because Panasonic did, everyone's excited about LG. So Sony is still in the conversation. They just keep you waiting. If they put out something now, and then TCL and Hisense put out these massive TVs, it'll neutralize what their plan is. They like hanging back a little bit. They do believe and they've done this the last 3 or 4 years, they want the focus to be on them squarely, which is why you also see Hisense releasing the U8, U7, and the U9 and U6 in separate events. They want to have that alone. Versus even TCL not being really forthcoming with the QM7. They want to hold things back, guys, because once it's out there, we dice it up, and a lot of times it gets annihilated. So they are learning, especially from us, beyond written media, that we're doing 2 hours here talking about it. They watch these. They know what is being said. They want to help steer that narrative. They put a bunch of stuff out after we do our videos. For example, FOMO, our videos of CES are very short. Everyone's doing 5-minute, 3-minute videos, boom, boom, boom. They're trying to get them out. Why would you do that when you can get a Sony video from wherever they have them? Those are half hour, and it's just Sony. It's not, oh, TCL, click, Hisense, click. Right now, I have all these brands on my mind. Sony will be my only girl in a few months. That's why they do it. Don't get caught up in, I know what you're saying, SB. It's not because they're afraid. It's not because they have nothing to show. They're strategically saving their money to be the only one featured. That way, when they do is they'll have an event, they'll choose the media that's going to be there. CES, there's real no choosing. Everybody comes, and then they'll figure out what they want to show, and they'll present it FOMO the very best way they can. So it's not that they're doing a disservice. It's calculated, and it's for a reason.
And so let's take us back to last year's Bravia. Last year's Bravia 9 release was exactly that. Sony wants to make sure that we have accurate information. At CES, people jump out and start saying 100 different things. Some are accurate because they spoke to the source. Others are just, conclusion, speculation, whatever. And with all that information, some of it speculation, some of it misinformation, the consumer's left confused, and it may or may not work for the brand, whereas Sony's like, okay, we're going to make sure that everyone who's here, right, media, press, influencer, doesn't matter, before you put anything out, let's make sure you all have the same information. So they spend days with each person. Last year's Culver City event, as the example, each TV, we got time to spend with it, and they made sure that we knew the technology to our level, our audience, right? So some people wanted to go deep into the technology, like Brian and I. Others just surface level, like how bright does it get? What makes it special? Okay, I'm good. And that's all they talk about. Whereas we wanted to go into the technology, the mini LED, the 22-bit, what does it do? So they were showing us everything they could. They brought in their scientists, their engineers, everyone that was involved in developing TV. They were there. Even the Amazon Prime team, the calibrated team that headed that, was there to answer my questions. They wanted to make sure we had the answers we needed. So when we released our information, it's accurate. And that could be the way to go, because I know when the embargo lifted for the Bravia 10, they had the entire space to themselves for a week. I think it worked. So the question is, did it work for you guys? Like, did you guys get excited in the middle of April, right? I think March or April was when it released. I thought it was effective.
So, and FOMO, if you think about, again, if you're at these events, and I'm new to these events, it's only been my 3rd year, I'm shocked at how quick the media, the written media especially, they're just jotting down and they're bouncing. They're on to the next thing. They're on to, I'm telling you guys, it's like literally, yeah, okay, cool, bye. So why would you want that? And the SB, I'm not coming down on you, my man. I mean, I totally agree. We'd all love to see them there. Nobody wants them more than us.
Wait, actually, stop it there. Sony tried to invite us to their booth. They're like, you don't have TVs. And they're like, well, you don't know that. I go, I don't think you're going to have TVs, right?
So we went to the booth because we have friends there. But, and look, what they showed is incredible. But here's what the booth showed me from Sony. The booth showed me that Sony's innovations in Hollywood and technology and everything else is going to pay for TVs. No matter what you think the TV market is doing, they're never going to give up on them. So your TVs are safe, but they're going to be strategic. If they put TVs in that, it's going to get washed out, and they know it. Look, and also, they've gotten to where they like releasing their TVs later in the year. It's worked for them because they become the only brand talked about. It also lets them have a 2-year cycle, which they've always done with Master Series. So they're not under the same pressure. They created their own speed. TCL and Hisense have been doing that all along. Releasing, they don't even believe in calendar years, FOMO. They put out what they want. So SB, I'm not coming at you, my friend. I'm just saying it's not a disservice. It's on purpose. But like you, I wish they were there. But
it would be nice.
I will tell you this, from a workflow thing, you have no idea how hard we're working to put these videos out. FOMO and I don't even go out.
Actually, I'm happy they weren't at CES, because can you imagine how much more work we'd have if they were? But yeah. And I don't think we spent enough time with Panasonic. I know you put out the Panasonic video, but it didn't
Yep.
address this question. Thank you, first class. FOMO, Brian.
I'm not
Why
capping for Sony, Ahmad. Look at this dude. I'm
why
capping for Sony.
didn't
What is
just like
wrong with you
I'm an
guys?
LG show, why didn't Panasonic
Respect.
do QD
This
OLED?
dude.
This is a great question, first class. So first of all, they're never going to say, I like LG, I don't like Samsung QD OLED, right? They cannot burn those bridges. We can only speculate why, but I'll tell you the quote given to me was, we want to win the shootout. And we know they have access to both Samsung and LG, and they chose LG's 4-layer Cake OLED, the new one, right? And they were very proud of that choice, but they didn't say anything bad about QD OLED. They were just very happy with what they chose, and they feel this is what they need to win at the shootout. And they reiterated it to us when we, sat down, had dinner with their engineer. I said, guys, at the time, they could not disclose what they were using because the embargo for them to tell us which technology they use was still on. So we didn't know what they used yet. So we tried to get them. Brian gave them extra beers. It did not work. It almost came out,
Almost
but
got
he did
Takagi-san to tell me, little son.
but he did
Just
say,
kidding, Takagi.
definitely we feel very confident with this TV. We are going to be in the shootout. Tell everyone we're there to win it, but we won't tell you what technology it is until the press release the next day. And the next day, it was like, we're using this, boom, boom, boom. They put out the chart, 4-panel, 4-stack, and they showed us all the different power spectrum spikes and all that, why it's better, why they needed it, and then they showed us samples before last year's Z95A, this year's Z95B. This is the color quality we need to win. Let's take a look, right? And so we were able to inspect it more closely. So given that, first class, that is their answer indirectly, why they chose LG. They will never say why they didn't choose QD-OLED. It's possible maybe it was too expensive, right? But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they chose the best technology they think best reflects their image quality priorities. What are your thoughts on that, Brian?
Well, and Dex is saying, you gotta remember the screen, the coating is not from Samsung displays. So the film, the Samsung display does not put in the coating. That's Samsung Electronics. They add that. So the coating is not the thing. For me, I'm thinking that they already have a relationship with LG in some ways. Perhaps they were, hoping to keep them, or it's a client relationship that they have. That could be part of it. But what we've heard from Sony and from Panasonic is from the engineers, guys. Now I keep saying this. It's not from some marketing person. The engineers hanging out with us at dinner, trying to get him drunk to get a little love, and basically saying this is the best technology that they feel they can use. Whether that's manipulating it or getting the most out of it, that's very different than what you and I want from it. Right? We want brightness, we want saturation, we want gaming features. These guys, they have so for example, Panasonic has 9 presets.
Oh my gosh.
Professional
I
one.
asked them, wait, can I stop that? I said, well, if you have 9, can you give me one and call it the FOMO preset or the beast mode? Have fun with that. At 9. At this
Yeah.
point, people are like, what do I choose?
Well, because Takagi-san, I'm meeting a guy that engineers it, creates it, and actually creates those presets. Not a marketing guy, but he knows he wants things to be that certain level, right? He wants to adhere to that certain thing. He has to then break that himself. So if you think Sony's accurate, to me, Panasonic's more accurate and more
And
natural. So
and actually, let me stop there. Rasmussen of Fat Panels HD, he's reviewed all the OLEDs from last year. His review of the Panasonic was that it was the most accurate out of the box. So if you were to choose a TV that you do not want to touch anything, just go straight to their most accurate setting, right? Professional 2 or Professional 1, depending on your lighting condition, you're done. Only Panasonic gets closest to that level of accuracy out of the box without calling a calibrator. And
yeah,
coming from Erasmus, that's I thought was pretty awesome. And he chose the Z95A for that. So
yeah,
that says a lot about what the level of work Panasonic puts into their TV at the manufacturing stage before they box it. That costs money.
yeah.
And that's why it's
Well,
slightly more
yeah.
expensive, but still a little
Well, and
less
they added
expensive than a Sony.
when they added another common connectivity feature this year, they changed the Professional 1 and Professional 2 to ISF 1 and 2. They're really there to make that work. But to your point, Formal, maybe they thought that QD-OLED is more about brightness versus accuracy. Maybe they have more experience with WOLED.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that, where I think Sony's excuse will be more fascinating than Panasonic's. Because Sony had so much success with the A95K and the A95L, and now we're changing course. So I hope with Sony, we're probably going to hear, and that's the best part about FOMO, having a separate event and having it later. They're probably going to share why they chose that, which
And
is what
I'll tell you this about the shootout that we have with
I
Value
agree, Joel.
Electronics. It's a reference monitor using movies. So Panasonic knows exactly how movies are made, just as Sony does. And movies are made from 0 nits, very dark, right, pitch black, up to about 1,000 nits. This is where you win at the shootout. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 nits. What movie content goes that high? You can't test that. But you can test against a reference monitor for color accuracy, color luminance up to 1,000 nits, and that's where you win or lose. And Panasonic feels that this technology lets them win from 0 to 1,000 nits, where you win or lose with processing on your OLED TVs, right? So QD-OLED may go up to 4,000. We don't have 4,000 nit content to test. I mean, I have fun with Jennifer Gallus, so I test it, but for people in the movie industry who we bring in for the shootout from Hollywood, all that, they're looking at it as they're watching a movie. Which one gives you the best color saturation that's most similar to the reference monitor? That's it.
Well, and Panasonic, and I agree, Julian, Panasonic basically also, like Sony, can push the panel brighter, but will say, hold on, if that creates noise. I'll give you an example, FOMO. I compared the Z85 to the Bravia 8. Now, when the Bravia 8 was in its dynamic or vivid preset, it looked natural compared to every other TV I compared it to, except for the Panasonic. The Panasonic looked more detailed and natural even in their dynamic preset, meaning even in dynamic FOMO, they're still keeping it accurate. Perhaps that's easier with WOLED. They're familiar with the technology. Either way, but Panasonic can also pivot next year if they think that's something they should do. What's up, Terry?
I want to emphasize SD's point because he's absolutely right. WOLED cannot get more accurate than QD. It's just physics. So certain things...
It could be the familiarity, SD.
Well, some things, it's a match for QD. So if I said 100 nits white, they could both look identical. But if you said 600 nits blue, yes, QD will get there, WOLED will be washed out. However, in a movie scene, let's say Netflix, the reason why Netflix is kind of dark, they want all TVs to look accurate. They don't want to expose, oh my God, my WOLED sucks. Well, that's because this scene is over 1,000 nits. That's why your color luminance didn't get there, but quantum dot OLED can get there. So within a certain range, QD-OLED and WOLED are so close without a meter, which is just your eyeballs, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. But at the extremes, you're absolutely right. QD will start to then separate itself with accuracy. But again, I think we're in the part where, well, we'll see. Because this is where if Samsung, with its latest QD-OLED, goes against Sony, LG, and Panasonic, we will see how QD-OLED plays against the other three. And this is the big one for Sony. If Sony comes to the game with the A95L again, okay, it's QD-OLED. Well, it might win because it's QD-OLED. But if it comes with WOLED 4-stack layer, 4-layer whatever, and it wins, either people will yell bloody murder, Sony has it with the Hollywood, or there's something to that. And remember, not our shootout, but at Vincent's shootout, G4 won overall, right? So, and that definitely is a QD-OLED. I know, I personally like the S95D. That's my TV of choice, but it's so close,
So Vincent, actually, I asked him about that. And I said, what did you think made the G4 win? He said, I don't think anything. I didn't choose it. So that's the thing about the judges, the blind shootout. They chose it. So
that's true. The judges chose the A95L. I would have chosen the S95D personally.
Well, they chose I'm saying in his shootout, they chose the G4, not him.
Right. No, did you ask him what he would have chosen?
I did, and he drank with me. So
what would you choose?
he
That's
was
another one.
hysterical too, bro.
FOMO needs to start using games as benchmarks. Nothing shows the superiority of QD-OLED like HDR games. So it goes to what games to choose. I would definitely have to do research to see which games best utilize the widest color gamut at the highest luminances. That's how you separate and pull apart the different technologies. But yeah, absolutely. It just takes too much research, and I do not want to buy a 5090 at launch. I'll wait for things to settle down. I made that mistake with the
I'm out.
3090, and this year I'm just going to wait until maybe Prime Day and pick up a 5090. The race to get it first means I'll be paying $5,000. Not worth it.
No, it's 2,000, but I have the 4090.
Well, yeah. You mean 2,000 off of list? That's not happening the first few
I'm not
months.
buying that thing.
It's $5,000.
I bought the PS5 Pro to show you guys. I haven't used it once. So I mean,
yeah. And I agree with acoustics. Prediction: Sony will have a new flagship TV in 2025, and it'll be unexpected, just like the Bravia 9, kind of like, whoa, 22-bit mini LED, and no one's going to see it coming. So let's do predictions. Just have fun with that. And this is taking the leak into consideration. Remember, the leak is very general. You know, it's OLED and it's mini LED. I think Sony is working on the RGB mini LED. Personally, I hope so. If they are, I'll be the first in line to get it as well. Can you imagine a Sony RGB mini LED? They don't care it came from Hisense or TCL. They want to use the best technology. So maybe that's the Bravia 10, Brian, that's been leaked, right? You don't think so? You don't think they're going to use the RGB mini LED? No. Look at that. That's like a skeptic.
I think the Bravia 9, I think their plan was the Bravia 9 carries over. They may release a larger one, but they're going to do an OLED of some kind. The A95L can't stay out there for 3 years.
So you think they're going to release a new OLED, whatever the technology ends up being?
I do.
I think they're going to double down with mini LED. Oof. You know why?
Right. The A95L is going to be the grandfather.
Well, you know why? It has no margin. The money is in the mini LED. Because think about it. You release it at 5,000. You sell it at 4. Everyone jumps on it because it's a deal. And there's more margin at 4,000 than the A95L or whatever they're selling. Everyone tells me QD-OLED.
The Bravia 9 didn't sell.
I know. They're going to drop that price and make money on the Bravia 9. But the Bravia 10...
The Bravia 9 was the cheapest Sony OLED LED in history.
And people still complained, right? And they still
didn't buy it. So that's not going to work. They're not going to go release
a flagship. Prediction time. So Brian believes the flagship will be an OLED. I'm beginning to think the flagship will be a mini LED. I think it's going to be a mini LED, and it's going to be large. I think they're abandoning the 65-inch flagship. They'll leave that to OLED, but that won't be their flagship. They're going to put all their effort to large flagship reference. That's my
so prediction. You guys that are predicting a larger Bravia 9,
that's what I'm predicting.
I think you'll hopefully see that, but that's not going to be a flagship. That's just going to be a carryover larger version that none of you are going to buy. It's not going to be $2,000. This is not TCL and Hisense. The thing's going to cost like $13,000.
Absolutely.
X90L was very expensive. So I mean, my point is, if they release that, that's not going to help any of us. It'll be something we can discuss, but that won't be a flag. A flagship is something you guys can afford to some degree and have varying sizes. So the Q900D is a flagship, but there is a 65, a 75, and an 85. They need to have more of those sizes. I think you're going to see another OLED, and that'll be the 4-stack OLED that'll be a Master Series. I think you'll see an 83-inch version of that to compete with LG.
But then I'm going to have to call out Hisense for doing the same thing. Their flagship is a 116-inch RGB mini LED that costs $20,000.
It's you're very right. But the thing is, where Sony has an X90L carryover, a Bravia 7, Hisense doesn't have that problem. They're going to have a U8, U7, U6, and a U9 that'll please everybody. And like they did it this year, FOMO, the U8N was not their flagship. The U9N was their flagship. But that wasn't the flagship. The UX was their flagship. So they're okay doing that. So what they say is the U8N is the flagship for most. So they're fine being naked like that. They don't care. I highly doubt they care now. So
well, Mr. Mystery has a great comment. And you know what? Maybe I might change my mind after reading his comment.
Nah, FOMO, not the same video, bro.
FOMO. I'm not sure about the Sony prediction. Most Japanese companies can't get over catering to their home market versus the global market. The Japanese don't want to buy such large TVs, and maybe they'll have a Japan
I
only
have news.
TV, right? I don't know. I think as much as the home market is important, I don't know if they can let the US North American market go. If they don't do something drastic here, their size is shrinking significantly every year. You have
Yeah.
to do something, and it can't be selling more Bravia 3s.
And they
That's
can't. You guys have to understand they cannot. I want to make sure I don't cap too much on TCL. Those dudes can literally on a napkin over here at a buffet where we're chilling and go and build it. That's what vertical integration is. There's no waiting for a panel. There's no nothing. So they have to be very careful in what they choose to do. If you think a Bravian 9 large TV is going to do anything, that would have been amazing last year. This year, it's an older TV. Unless it's a Bravian 9 that's been greatly enhanced, that's not going to do anything. And Samsung is releasing their versions of their QLEDs, not the 8Ks. They're going to have two versions that are 100 inches or 98 inches that we're hoping we'll see. So they're not. So Samsung has been ahead of it, FOMO. The
yeah.
QN90A was a flagship, so those TVs will be more affordable. And that what's it called? The micro LED RGB is 8K on the show. The home version will be 4K. They're looking for that TV to be affordable, and that TV
Mhm.
is going to release this year. That's not pie in the sky. It's this year. It won't be this month, but it'll be this year. Am I
This is a
capping enough
great,
for
great question, Rich. Lickle Poor Boy. FOMO out of the 75-inch U8N, U7N, QM8, or 65-inch S90, which would you choose? So to me, going from 65 to 75 is still too close. I go from a 65 S90D, which I would prefer over those 75, or I would take an 85-inch QM7, because the QM7, in my opinion, is better than the U7N and a match for the U8N, and so close to the QM8 that for that price, I can get an 85-inch QM7. I'd go with the size for immersion or the 65-inch S90D for outright quality. So 85-inch QM7 or 65-inch S90D. That way, if you do go to a non-OLED, you're getting that size for your trouble. What would you do, Brian?
75 inch U8N, U7N, QM8, or 65 inch system? Ooh, that's a great question. You can't ask me because I'm in the heavyweight division. So I would never get a TV at 65 inches, and the S90D wouldn't be the one I'd get. If you're going to go down in size, it would have to be the S95D for the better tone mapping and a better overall TV.
Mhm.
I'd go with 75 inches. Again, FOMO, all depends on what TV you're coming from.
That's
If you're
true.
coming from a 65, that TV is going to be. If you're coming from a 65 from a few years ago, the S90 will be smaller because the bezels are smaller. If you want to go up in size, I would go up in size. You're not going to be happy with the same size TV for an
It
upgrade.
looks great though, right? That's why 85 QM7 for
It
me with that similar budget.
is. Keep bragging. Heavyweight division
Hey,
sucks, actually. I wish I had 65-inch TVs. I'm buying them every year. Anyway,
Sneak Creeper. Thank you for the super chat. Any idea why they didn't push the brightness on OLED monitor to CES? Yes, they actually explained it. TVs can do 3,000 nits. Why can't they sell a monitor that does 2,000 nits? So we spoke to Shirag
density.
about that. He says, honestly, you're sitting too close. He has to
Yeah,
take eye
yeah,
health into consideration. The monitor designers, the actual brands, MSI, Alienware, they don't want it that bright. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is what we want up to
yeah,
this brightness. Any brighter, and now we have other issues. So let's take it
yeah,
to this brightness and also the refresh rate. The
yeah,
harder you push the refresh rates, the less bright it can get. So given those
yeah,
two counteracting needs, 500 hertz refresh, 400 hertz refresh, right?
yeah.
And also you're only, what, 24 inches away from a 27-inch monitor, if not,
Yeah,
yeah,
so,
around there,
so,
right?
so, so
That's why.
yeah.
That's what
Sneaker, I
they
asked
told
that.
us.
Yeah, I asked that question specifically because I think last year when I saw the 42-inch FOMO ultra wide,
Hmm.
I
I
was ready
remember
to
that.
buy it because I was expecting 2,000 nits. Then when it was reviewed at like 400 nits, I was like, wait, what? And what he was saying is that the pixel pitch, the pixel density, and the fact that most people are playing as you would on a monitor on a desk, having 4,000 nits hitting you in the face is just not going to work.
Right.
So, and here's the thing: I'll tell you guys, seeing those monitors though, the perception is they're definitely brighter than any other monitor you've ever seen.
Yeah,
What's up,
yeah.
Marcus? Gaming tech in the house. What's up, brother? He's
Yes, he
going to see.
is.
What's up, bro?
James, thank you for that super chat. For HDR movie reading, so I guess you're reading subtitles in HDR, would y'all choose the best 77-inch QD OLED or the best 100-inch mini LED? So
That's a big jump.
I'm assuming your distance is adjusted for how you want to read it. So I would choose QD OLED because it's OLED. It's easier to read infinite contrast. There's less DSE. No matter what the scene, you'll always see the text clearly because of the contrast. There is no risk of slight blooming at all, right? There is no blooming ever on an OLED. With a 100-inch mini LED, it depends on what model. I mean, there's so much that depends, like how much are you willing to pay to get that better reading resolution? Are you getting the cheapest 100-inch mini LED? But the minute I hear QD OLED, I already know the quality I'm getting. I understand there's that color fringing that may happen on text. I'd still go with QD OLED first. And then if that's an issue, okay, try mini LED. But if it isn't, stick with QD OLED. It's just, if you're focused on something, you need infinite contrast to take the fatigue out of your eyes, I think. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah. Well, the color fringing on the text is actually like if you're typing. You're not going to see that really on subtitles as badly as if you were trying to type or read using it as a monitor. So that's a big difference, FOMO. I would go
Wait,
the opposite.
he meant streaming instead of reading. All right. Okay, that might change my
Oh, okay.
answer.
Streaming instead. Okay.
Um,
I got you. So
okay, I got
I
you.
would still go.
So streaming.
I would still go with a 100-inch because look, that's where I mean,
That's
so,
the immersion.
James, this is why 100-inch because 100-inch was for years only projector FOMO, dedicated
Yeah.
room projector because you need to have the
And a dark
screen.
room. The room has to be dark,
Yeah,
controlled.
a dark room. And so, James, if you have a child in your picture, you have to have a separate room in the basement. It has to be dark. The family can't touch the projector. Now that it's a TV, and 100 inches isn't as big as you think, right, FOMO? As long as you can dedicate a wall, it
Mm-hmm.
does blend in after a while. I'm telling you, pick it up. I would go 100 inch. And I love QD OLED,
Yeah,
but I think for what you're asking me, I would say 100-inch mini LED is the way to go.
agreed, agreed.
Now I'm the
And
size guy, FOMO. You were the big guy for the long time.
uh, after seeing ultra short throw projectors, I reviewed a few of them. I'm convinced when I throw it on a wall, even on a wall, and this is why I know, a wall's
Oh,
not
dude,
great. It's just a
great.
white reflective wall. Dim the lights, ultra short throw, I'm like, wow. And my family loved it. They're like, don't turn off the OLED. Even though the 65-inch A95K is awesome, blah, blah, blah. We want that big immersion when we watch anime, anything on Netflix. They just rather watch it on the projector. Even if the projector isn't as sharp or contrast driven with color saturation of an OLED. So most people, right, and you guys are not most people, so you're special, you're enthusiasts like us, they appreciate that, boom, immersive size. So I always kind of defer to that for the family pleaser. If you're there to please your family, get the 100-inch and everyone will be like, oh, I love this, Dad. Boom, 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 done. Lisa, I
Agreed.
know you have a wall that could accommodate 100-inch. I don't
You
think
know
you have a
why you have a
place
wall?
to sit.
Just replace, just make it the wall, honey. I'm sure everyone's got a wall just to get rid of the furniture that's there. And what's cool about
Right.
100-inch TVs, Lisa, is a lot of them have stands that you because they're so big, the TV is chest level, just out of the box. Put some blocks under it, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dean Youngblood said if I throw furniture out, you don't need furniture, baby.
Well, this is a great response. Plasma TV for gaming.
Plasma
That
TV.
justification is easily dismantled with mini LED monitors that are significantly brighter in every way. And I don't disagree that it could get brighter, but the question is, do people blast it at 100% peak brightness?
Well,
Right?
and I don't know about
What
you,
is the natural brightness that people watch it with? Do they
yeah, but
blast it
even the
to
best for
3,000?
me, but even the best mini LEDs in the world, and I've gamed on all of them, I can't let go of the contrast of OLED. I can't because that's the true resolution, especially on PC. That contrast lives within the image, so you can make it as bright as you want. If it washes out a little bit, I want nothing to do with it. That's why I still have OLED.
Right. Lisa does not live in a hut. She lives
Come
in a
on,
huge
she's making it wrong.
condo, but her wall has
Yeah, Jay
art.
Wade, heavyweight division, baby. You have a garage too, Lisa. Right? Throw that in the garage, baby.
Yeah, put on the
It's a
hall,
whole other
along the
thing, my
hall.
friend. A lot of these TVs have big sound actually on their own.
Yep, heavyweight division. And Well, you know, the new 65 is going to be 85. Already we're moving to 75 as the new 65. So in the
And guys,
USA, I understand
yeah,
other countries, but yeah, this will be the new size for the
but guys,
US.
we talked about 83 2 years ago, and you guys thought that was too big. 77 was big enough. And then last year, when we were talking about 83, so many of you said, especially my boy Getty, if he's still in here, who was playing the stock market with his TV, you guys basically said 83 was too small. And the manufacturers know that. Lisa, your TV's great, my darling.
Well, she sits close. Not many people know. You know, it's all relative, right? If you're 12 feet away from a 65 inch, yeah, that's way too small. But if you're
I
six or
said
7 feet
5 feet
away,
from an 83.
yeah,
So,
but you're special. You're special.
but even this 83 behind you, that's about 9 or 10 feet. That's probably a decent seating, and that's too far for me.
Yeah.
Max Chablis, 83, Chablis. No, Chablis I like
Chablis.
better. Max, I like that little smooth Chablis. Gone. Definitely too small. Max is in the heavyweight division. 85, baby. Max knows. Let's go, Max.
Now we're gonna try to capture your last few questions. We're gonna wrap up soon. So any
Two
questions you
hours like
have
it's
about
nothing.
new TVs,
No.
CES, any news you heard that was confusing, clarity is needed after CES, let us know. I love you all. Thank you for your continued support, coming on this channel, saying hello, and you know, even questions about 2024 TVs will help you out for sure. FOMO,
Yes,
Brian,
please.
was there an S95F QD OLED on display? Yes, but it was in the innovation room in the back where they had it next to the S95D for Brian and I to
Yep.
compare. So not
And
all
it's so
of the media had access to the innovation room, but it was there. All the content was on the 83-inch WOLED. Blame the influencers who shot it. Brian has the S95F. If you watch my intro on my video today, you'll see the S95F right next to the S95D.
you'll
It's
watch
the
the
first
video of
30
me.
seconds of my intro. And you know, Brian's gonna have it in
Watch
depth
my
though.
watch my heartbreak video if you want to see like my true feelings on it. So let me share this story real quick.
Well, you have the
So high
S95F
def,
on your Heartbreak video, right?
yeah. Oh, and the S90. So I think high def,
But the
and
65
high,
inch, I mean the QD-OLED S95F,
yeah,
not the 80, not the
So
83 inch.
yeah. So we saw the 65 inch at the Innovation Room. It smoked the last year. So that wasn't Samsung
Yes.
Display. That was actually Samsung. That was with Florian. But so when you walked into the first look, all they had
Continue. I'll
was
be right
three
back
QD.
and get my water.
Yeah. So they had three QD OLEDs. They had the S95F front and center matte screen. Then they had the S90F, which had a matte, not quite anti-glare. And then they had the WOLED. I can't remember the name of that one. Damn, FOMO, easy, buddy. You're getting some ice. You falling down the stairs.
All good. I had to go in the back and get my water. Continue.
The back of what, bro? There's like the old school garbage cans back there, like the Sesame Street joints. Anyway, so in high def, I'm sure you found that video hysterical because you started me wanting that TV last year. So as we were going in to look at that, I was just looking at it. I was loving it. I thought it would be there. All right, Vincent, first one I saw there, he's in my video with his light. There's another dude with a light on it. Now, I know what they're looking for. I did not want to look for it. I knew I was going to see Samsung the next day to ask them. So I was coping badly because I wanted that TV. It looked gorgeous. Now, many of you said to me, well, if you liked it, why would you not still buy it? Guys, it's still demo material at the end of the day. Even though I show you demo material in my videos, I do watch regular content at home when I view these TVs. There's no way I'm going to buy an 83-inch matte WOLED. Like what? That was the whole joke with our live stream the other night. Like, why would I want that?
Wait,
I got a
no, an
clone
83 inch
right here.
matte WOLED without MLA. So you're down
Not
to a
MLA,
Sony
and it's not a QD-OLED.
A80J.
Who wants that? That's like me painting my 880L right now. So if you didn't see that video, watch that video, and it's 11 minutes, and Vincent's walking by smiling, and it was hysterical. But yeah, so I'm actually going to buy the 83-inch G5 because I want a new TV. My C1 is getting up there in age anyway. So I'll buy that at launch. It won't be in the studio. It'll be at my home, and I'll film it from there. And then I'll do the other C-Series FOMO or the G-Series from Value Electronics or from LG when we go to review. But I'll buy the first releases of the G5. I'll do that.
And this
So there's
takes
no
us
choice. There's nothing else.
This takes us to the question that everyone wants to know, really. I want a QD-OLED TV flagship, but no anti-glare, which means you're out of luck. What do I buy? Well, unless Sony introduces a QD-OLED, which, speculation is they
Yeah.
might not, but they might. What do I buy?
Yeah.
So let's wait for Sony, definitely not Samsung, and that's
So,
it. Would I be happy with an LG G5, Brian?
no, because
I,
he
I
wants a
wouldn't. I
QD
would take
OLED.
the S95F. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm out of this
So
conversation.
if you don't, yeah, him and I are both clearly. I didn't care about the anti because I've seen it in all its use cases. If you put that TV in a room with a lamp behind you, you'll see nothing, and it leaps off the screen like something you've never seen. Let me cap real quick. Exactly. I definitely put a little bit of little Vaseline on that piece, or I'll put a little sandpaper on it. If you want a QD OLED flagship that's glossy, grab yourself an A95L. They're still out there. You'll never see another one of its kind, or grab the S90C, 95C, and you're good to go. They're still
And
there.
I agree. I agree with E-Acoustics as well as Brian. We saw both of them. We shined a flashlight at the S95F QD-OLED and the S95D, last year's QD-OLED, and the
Yeah.
F was so much better. You can still see the reflection, but it's more diffuse and doesn't scatter as much as the 2024 model. And the issue was that the 2024 model felt like it just reflected it right back at you. Whoa, that's even worse than not having the anti-glare. So same experience I had. Many of you should at least give it a try. Not to try to convince you the anti-glare is great, but it's definitely improved, and that may be enough for many of you.
Well, and I mean, it better be because their whole lineup has it. It's like top to
You know,
bottom.
I love the name I'm a Cold Brick because the comment is so...
Goes right where you're going.
I'm a cold brick. CES seemed disappointing this year. It's like Eeyore saying, I'm sad. Well, you know
If
what?
you said I'm a cold brick and it said I'm so happy,
I
I
mean,
know we
worse.
covered that. I'm a cold brick. I got you. Go to the beginning of the video and I'll tell you why it wasn't. But you had to be there to really appreciate it. It's
Yeah.
why
No,
watching the
I
content
think it was
is
good. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here. We're going to have a lot more content this week for sure. And any questions, put it in the comment below. I'll try to hit it. Brian, what's happening this week? What videos are you doing?
So I have TCL's video airing tomorrow, and then I have Samsung's airing Wednesday, and then I have Hisense Friday. I'm also still going to release some of the comparisons that I didn't finish. The U7N, U7K. Some of those I'll still do. I'm actually going to do a Q9 800, Q9 800D because obviously, FOMO, there's no more 8K glossy. So that TV is going to be
Mm-hmm.
something a lot of people are going to look at. FOMO, Brittany had a really good question up top. Why are they using the flashlight? So after this super chat, let's put that one up there and FOMO. Describe to them why you're seeing a flashlight.
Oh yeah, we have a couple of good questions. So quickly, thank you for the comment. My real FOMO is if tariffs are coming or not. Yeah, that would increase the price by about 15 to 20% across the board. Okay, let's catch a few of these last great questions real quick. Brittany, why they're using the flashlight? So the flashlight is to see whether or not it's anti-glare, but then they're also using it to get a close-up of the pixel to see the pixel layout because QD-OLED is different than WOLED. WOLED or QD-OLED has like a triangle layout. So if you look closely, you go, oh, okay, it's QD-OLED. Whereas RGB has that red, green, blue pattern that's more striped. So that way they know which is which. So it was a combination of checking for the anti-glare, which really you don't need that
Yeah.
flashlight to do, or a close-up of the pixel layout. Chris has a great
So,
question. I'll answer this, but go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
well, I think Britt had a kick because she commented on the video that as I'm crying, at the end, I'm like, there's another guy with a flashlight. Terrible. Go ahead. Good question.
Chris, lastly, any Dolby Vision for Samsung this year? So Samsung Display announced that they would be using Dolby Vision for their in-car display. And when I was at Samsung Display, I saw why they did. Ultimately, Samsung Display is not a TV company. They don't have tone mapping. So instead of developing their own tone mapping system like Samsung Electronics, you would think they would borrow something from Samsung Electronics like, I don't know, just basic HDR10. They instead licensed Dolby Vision to do the tone mapping for them. So essentially, Samsung Display has no way of converting high dynamic range video that's either outside or just basic display in your car to tone map it properly, they hired Dolby Vision to do it for them, and then I guess they're taking advantage of the licensing, so it sounds great, but you don't need Dolby Vision to tone map properly. It's just Samsung Display doesn't have the expertise to do so, and so they hired them, and so now they have Dolby Vision for in-car display. Unlike Samsung Display, Samsung Electronics has an amazing tone mapping system that I think matches or beats Dolby Vision. That's why you don't need it for normal Samsung TVs. But those of you who want it, you got Panasonic, Sony, and LG to choose from. That's fine. But I don't think it's a big loss for Samsung TVs not to have it.
No, but I mean, going back to what we said about TCL, we actually have Bruce Walker in the house. Bruce, what's up, brother?
Oh, yes.
So Bruce from TCL is in the chat. Bruce, who must be exhausted because those dudes go to CES like, I don't know, a week before it starts. But we mentioned that if you don't like the anti-glare or matte finish on their 6 or their 7, they do have a separate variant. That's something that Samsung is not offering. Samsung's is that anti-glare from top to bottom. So, Brittany up here again. What's up, Britt? See, this is what we like about channels, giving people, they learn as they watch.
Yes. And Tech Steve, love you, man. So we bumped into Tech Steve. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. Always. We see him once a year at CES.
The nicest guy on YouTube is Tech Steve.
Yes.
Nicest dude on YouTube. Just
Great
a good
reviews.
Dude. What's up, Britt?
One day we'll have to do a review with him. All right. I think this is a wrap.
My daughter is actually on here.
Oh, wait. Is that my daughter or your daughter?
Maybe my daughter. Is that my daughter or your daughter? Is that you, Scott?
Is that you, Abby?
Love you, sweetheart.
All right. Hey, thank you for coming, everyone. Love you all. And we're going to have so much fun this year. My first TV I'm going to try to review is the TCL QM6. Oh, one more super chat before we go. And a great one it is. How are the TCL WHVA panels? So it's not WHVA. It's the first generation HVA being used for the first time this year. Looked great. Next year will be WHVA. Samsung said they are using some kind of HVA, but it looked great. I saw it off angle. I need to have it side by side, but both Samsung and TCL, I saw improvements off angle. We saw improvements on, well, all the LCD TVs this year. So it sounds like they're using HVA. Hopefully Sony will deploy HVA. And yeah, that's great. Now next year though, it's WHVA. This year it's regular HVA. So with that, you guys are epic. You're epic, Tech Steve. You're epic, Brian. Our audience is epic.
Put my daughter's comment up there. Weird girl, weird core girl.
Oh, there you go.
Hi, FOMO bro. Yes, it's Sky. Hi, Sky.
Hi, Sky. Shout out to Sky.
She said FOMO bro.
FOMO bro. I like that. Bromo. And let's give a shout out to 8K. You never know. Dude. One day it'll be a thing. Until next time, my friends, stop the FOMO.
Love you guys. Take care.